Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. We're talking to you guys today about, why do women need a man in 2023? We're talking about what are men good for? What is the purpose of men? We're going to have a really good conversation, I believe, today. I want to start saying this. You know what? In life, there's one thing that is for sure, and one thing that is certain: change. Change always happens wherever you are, whomever you are. Change is constant, which is kind of a paradoxical thing in there. But anyway, change is always going to be happening, right? And what's really interesting at this particular time and moment is we're having a conversation, I guess, on the internet, in manosphere, amongst women, amongst men, amongst each other. We're having this conversation about the role of men. What are men for? What is the purpose of a man? Why do we need one? Do we need to say we need one? Do we not need one? There's a lot of conversation about men, right? And so I wanted to have this conversation about the purpose of a man. What is the need to have a man in 2023? Because we can consistently hear rhetorics like "I don't need a man," and what is a man good for, and etc. etc. Now, I'm not putting this onto necessarily women alone. I want to have a really good conversation. I want to tell you about a particular time, and I'll tell you about a particular time which was in the time of around about 1830s, right, to the 1840s. We have what we call the Industrial Revolution. It was a period where there was major mechanization of jobs, okay? And many people revolted against this because many people's jobs became obsolete. The innovation was great for the industries and the companies who boomed after it because they benefited from the change. But the people who were doing certain jobs, their job suddenly was becoming obsolete, right? But the industry of consumer buying and selling never ended. It never went away. But the change of the industry was that now we could mass produce. We no longer had to do things by hand. We no longer had to wait for bespoke pieces. We could now mass produce these things on a large scale, and that brought about, I guess, a greater business proposal of globalization in a sense, right? Um, and at the time, a lot of people were angry, fighting for it. People died for it. You know what I mean? Why am I telling you this story? Because change is bound to happen. I think we're in a season right now where we're in a moment of change. We're 2023, but the change has been happening for a very, very long time. And what change do I believe I'm seeing right now? Well, I'm going to talk about the Black community specifically. The change that I'm seeing amongst men right now is your change of role. I think the role that men are playing in society has been expanded. Better yet, let me say the role in a man in marriage has been expanded, but the role of a man in society is still the same. Uphold it, speak life into it, protect it, show love to the community around you, right? And I mention this because I feel this is going to link into a conversation about value, because everybody wants to feel valued. Men, women, all of us want to feel a sense of value within society. And when we don't feel valued, and we feel like we're not being seen, this is where majority of the madness begins to happen on both sides, right? But we're talking about men today, all right? So I wanted to have a conversation with the boys and have a conversation about, the purpose of a man in 2023. There's a question that's being said: is a man's role now in 2023 obsolete? I would say the 1.0 version of a man's role in society, the purpose of it, is obsolete. Yes, it has to be obsolete so that a new one can come in. Do women no longer need men in 2023? Well, if those men are 1.0, yes, they don't need those men anymore. They need 2.0 now. Why? Because things have changed, and it's not going back. We are not going back into the ages where we never had we don't have machinery anymore. We're not going back to that day. We're not going back to a time when we don't have internet. We're not going to go backwards. We're only going to go forwards, which means we have to move with the times. That doesn't mean every tenant and every foundation has to be shifted. What it means is we have to adapt. It means we have to evolve, and it means we have to look at things slightly differently. Okay, so I'm gonna my next 2 minutes. I'm gonna just break this down, and I'm gonna bring the boys on to have a conversation. Okay, um, in this situation here, yes. So I think what we look at, especially for men, we consistently say about provision, protection, and being a priest over their family, or being over their own home, right? We have a lot of conversation because a lot of things are going around. Like, for instance, the independent woman. Okay, I think Sierra just trended the other day because people were saying, "How come she made a song about independent women when she is living in a man's house, enjoying the benefits of being a wife to a great man?" But the question we're having around this issue now is where men may feel that they're being deposed and removed and made obsolete. And I want to tell these men, you are not obsolete and you're not being deposed, but you're going to need to change. Many of us work, and we understand that when work comes in, sometimes changes and policies shift and change. And if you don't change with it, there goes your job. You can either get with the program or you can lose. So I want to say this: your role as a man in a society where is about creating value, right? Because we build as men, and creating that value and building um, is about being able to show that you have some importance, some worth, or some usefulness in the society. There's one thing that hasn't changed. There's one thing that hasn't changed: our physical attributes. The need to protect in our society is still important. We hear our sisters, I'm being very specific now, we hear our sisters talk about this all the time. Black men don't protect us. Black men don't, rally around us and support us, etc., etc. This is actually a gap in the market. Now, I don't mean to make it businessy. I'm just trying to bring some understanding here. That is a gap in the market. I'm not saying to be a chameleon or to be false about it, but I'm saying to improve upon that aspect. What are you doing to protect those sisters then? Because if you leave your value at provision in terms of finances, you're going to lose. The system has changed. Women are making as much money as you. Some are even making more than you. In fact, some have gone past you. Some have gone clear. You can't even afford to even step into the air. What are you going to do? If your value is simply based on finances, you will be obsolete because the game has changed. They've now entered the same working sphere and they're not going back. We can't force women to leave their jobs and go back into being housewives. We can't. The Pandora's box is now open. The need for them to also have freedom and the ability to make money is never going to want to go away now. They've had a taste. So what do? We have to expand our role. Your role cannot stay as I make bacon and I bring it home and you cook it. It has to expand. And that means in order to create value, we have to look at other aspects of our role as men in the society. If you're only providing finances, you're going to lose because you can do that now. So you have to look at the market slightly differently. You are no longer valued by just how much money you can bring in. Are you emotionally intelligent? Are you spiritual? Can you comprehend deep ideas? Is the dick game on point? Let me be honest with you, because it's gonna come into play. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Is your dick game on point? It's gonna come into play because money ain't covering you no more. Okay, all right. And I'm being facetious about it. I'm being facetious about it, but I'm trying to get you to understand that the system has changed, and therefore we're gonna have to change with it, creating new value by expanding into new markets. All right. Now, I'm sure there's going to be different points of view. I'm sure I'll get these other guys who come from the manosphere. I can really see one of them in the chat. Um, you know, so it's going to be an interesting conversation. I got my boys behind the scenes, and so let's start having that conversation. This is not about trying to put down black women or put down black men. This is a real conversation amongst us men, and I want you to understand we're trying to provide a healthy space for narratives that are going to help improve our community. And so hopefully we can get to that conversation today. All right, cool. Let me get the boys on and let's get this conversation flowing. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Cool. boys. What is popping? We love to see it. Brother's got he's got his hoodie on. He's ready for the show. All right, cool. Yeah. So let me take this off because it's gonna annoy me. Okay. So we're talking obviously about men and talking about the purpose of a man, especially in 2023. It's quite a big topic now as well. So I want to ask this first question. I want to ask is, you know, what is the purpose for you? What do you see the purpose of a man in 2023? What is the purpose to you? What is the purpose of a man? Why are men needed in that sense? Johan, you got your mic open, so you can go for it first.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. I would say the purpose of a man in 2023, from my opinion, it doesn't change from what it has always been. Which is protect, provide, cultivate, and produce more. So all those things are what us men we are called to do. Now, it may not necessarily look like what it used to be in 1940 or 1930, but essentially we still have to do that in one way or the other. So I think we just gotta the wheel doesn't change. We just gotta understand how it works, and that's what we just gotta do now with the new tools of 2023. And Corey, Trey, good to see you guys.
Thank you very much, Johan. Appreciate that. Trey, what's your thoughts? Purpose of a man in 2023. What's your thoughts on this? What's the purpose of a man in 2023? Oh, our brothers. Okay.
Honestly, I was going to start off just like Johan did. It's PPP standard. You know,
Bro, you cutting up. Trey, you cutting up. That Wi-Fi is doing you dirty, boy. You are cutting up. You might have to come out and come back in because it was working before. Because you cutting up, bro. It'll come back out and come back in, bro. Corey, purpose of man in 2023. What you saying?
Yeah, so I think that the purpose is still the same. Provide, protect, profess. I think that along the way, some men have changed things up to make things easier for them and not for the families. And vice versa. I think some women have made things a little bit different for the man to be able to protect and do the things he's supposed to do. So I think we're gonna get into the discussion today, but I think that the needs are still the same. It's just how do we get back to grassroots and get back to what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay. Go for it, Johan. You want to say something?
No, that was well said. The fact that he mentioned, the need of a man, I think that's where the message has changed the purpose of a man or why men are needed essentially. So that's where the conversation I feel like has changed over the years.
How do you mean has changed over the? How do you mean by that? It's changed over the course of the years. What does that mean in a sense? Because both you and Corey mentioned that. How do you mean?
Well, just like you mentioned when you originally started talking about the fact that the general family doesn't look like what it used to back in the days because now mom is able to work and also generate income. So essentially, men don't necessarily have that laziness per se to just provide. Now you really have to lean on all the other aspect of what is required for you as a man. Unfortunately, some men just thought that was the only thing that was expected of us, and then other women too only expected that of us. So I think that the purpose never changed. The need just had whether expanded or has been reduced or maybe even like misinterpreted over the years, and then we can definitely unpack that tonight for sure.
Love that. Trey, you there? I hope his Wi-Fi is working. Well, he gonna need a new wifey.
Boy, that dial
Go
up.
for it, Corey.
That dial up something else.
Yeah, that dial up. Trey's on that dial up, bro.
Yeah, on the Wi-Fi. So I'm like, okay, what's going on now?
You might have to go on that 5G, bro.
Not in this area.
All right, try and see if we can do it. Go for it. Try and see if we can get something out of you, bro. Go on.
Oh, I was going, like I was saying earlier, I was going to agree with Johan. That's still our basic function. I think we're biologically built that way. But yes, we have had to evolve, especially within these last 10 years. We had to evolve from that state. And let's be honest, it's been a little difficult to see where we fit in now. Because it's an interest. I was going to make an interesting point. You hear a lot more women that, lately and nowadays, they talk and say like they don't need a man. I can do it all by myself, this and that and third. You don't really hear men saying we don't need women. You don't hear that too much from us. We still taking the constant effect that yes, we need you. That's how we built. We need you. So there's a little bit of a miscommunication that's going on between us, and it's getting worse. We can always try to improve our conversations with one another, improve how we talk to one another, try to understand one another. But I think before you can even get understanding, you do need to understand the basic needs of our sexes. So listen more, talk less. You might learn a little something. But that's just a start. I guess we'll get into a lot more later.
Yep, I'm hearing that. Yeah. I mean, listen, I definitely hear that. So there's obviously been an evolution of our role, in a sense, right? So like you were saying, things have changed. We've got to a place where someone even asked a question. About that. We've got to a place where we're not seeing the value as being solely just the financial aspect, and that is forcing, as you said, women are saying now, I don't need a man, etc., etc., and it's this independent woman, quote unquote, aspect. But obviously, if why do you feel like women are now saying this kind of terminology though? Because obviously, clearly, they needed us at one point. I'm being facetious, by the way. I'm just kind of following that line of thought. Women at one point said they needed us. Now, some women, not all, are now saying they don't need us. So, what's clearly changed? So we can define that quickly. What's changed, and then we can start kind of breaking it down even more. What has changed for us personally, for us as men? What's changed? Yo, talk to me.
Yeah, I was definitely gonna want to go first on that. I think what has changed is that the dynamic of the relationship between the man and the woman. Because when you really look, we even mentioned last time I was on this platform how we took the example of the young lady Jonique on Ready to Love, how women entering the workplace essentially really like changed them. You mentioned that, Kojo. So I think that has changed essentially that relationship, because when we first started, the women they needed us because we were bringing the bacon home, we were providing. Then when they got access to the provision as well, then men essentially we had to really evolve in what we were needed around the house, because I'm not gonna lie, our grandparents were probably a little bit lazy in the way that they were leading their families, but at the same time they did not also have to be more creative with their leadership, because life wasn't changing as it is now. A lot of things have changed now in the past 5 years, the past 10 years. Back in the days, a family did not have to worry about getting a Ring camera in front of the door. Nowadays, they do. If you look at a way a man was leading his family 5 years from now, there were extra expenses. So in the way that the woman and the man have their relationship, that has changed. You know, a little bit more example that I can share there, but there's so many things that has changed in that dynamic that men essentially we need to do more than just showing up with a paycheck at home.
I love that. Corey, thank you, yo. What's changed, Corey? What's changed?
I think that what's changed is the respect level. And I think the respect level has changed because a lot of men don't conduct themselves as respectful men. They don't respect themselves. So why would a woman respect you? If you don't walk and talk a certain way, if you're not a man of your word, if you let people down time and time again, how can you ask someone to respect that? So when I say what's changed, it's not always on the other side. You know, some things happen on both sides, but for the men, I think that's what's changed because the men of yesteryear is no longer the men of today. And because that's been a change, you can't ask for certain things, certain requirements that you know you need as a man if you can't first get the respect you need. But you got to first respect yourself and know how to walk and talk. So I think that's one of the biggest things that changed.
I love that. So are you saying that in terms of what you said, and I think someone's even put in a chat, are you saying the because of the change that have happened, has the respect for men then also changed? Has the respect for a man's position changed then?
Yes. Yes. The position changed when when you look at, okay, so as a man, when a woman looks at you, she's supposed to automatically want to respect you. She shouldn't have to look for things to respect you for. But nowadays, they have to look for things to respect. So now the questions are, what kind of job you have, what kind of car you drive, how do you treat your kids? You have to ask this long list of things to see if you qualify, you know, for what they want as a man, a man. So I'm saying that what's missing is that it factor that men used to have, that most men used to have, you know. Certain things you can say to certain women, and you can say it to one demographic of women, but you can say it to other. Just like I'll give you a horrible example, but it kind of makes a little sense in my mind. Like you'll have some men that'll go to a club and they will touch a woman, you know, when they didn't get permission, right? Then there are other women who have that certain presence about themselves where dudes like, I couldn't do that. I'm not gonna try that on her because she's not that type of woman I can do that with. You see what I'm saying? So the same thing with men. You have a certain stance about yourself, a certain aura about you. Women can sense that. It's natural for them to sense that about you. So when they do, you know, they can gravitate towards you in that respectful manner. But if they don't, you gotta beg and plead to get her attention. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay, I like that. So as a respect changed, Johan, has a respect level for men changed? Has it shifted?
Yeah, I think in the way that I see it, I think uh, the standard of man essentially has changed. What I'm trying to say is that we used to be referred and looked up to as gentlemen. Now, essentially, with the image of the gentleman changing into things like a thug or irresponsible man, now women essentially have to double check the way that we carry ourselves first, like Carrie was mentioning. So it has been something on both sides. Let's be honest, that has been happening since the early 90s, 2000, and all. Like the way that we carry ourselves within society has changed so much that most men don't carry themselves in a very respectful way anyway. So it is very tough for a woman when she comes across the man right away to give him that level of respect because, like Corey said, maybe she has been, approached or touched, in the wrong way about the wrong man, essentially. Too many bad apples, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Somebody
Okay,
said in
yeah.
the comment, the City Boys.
Trey, talk to me. What's changed, man?
You know, this is going to be one of those topics where you can't point to just one thing. It's a combination
Agree.
of many things that has changed the dynamics of how we even look towards women. Like if you notice, they fundamentally look at us differently. Like beforehand, like we started out with, it did. Even though this is very basic, it started with the PPP. They're looking for a man that's going to protect them. They're looking for a man that's going to provide for her and her family. They're looking for a man that's going to profess to her and profess to the world who she is in his life. You know, now we got to the point where they feel like, I'm gonna word it that way. They feel like they really don't need us to provide for them anymore. At least some of them do, because they can provide for themselves. Okay, fine. We're now getting to the point, and I think this is within the last, I say 7 years when I really look at it. We're really now getting to the point where they think that they don't need protection until they do. That's the funny thing about it. They don't need protection until they do. But now they don't want us to protect them anymore. Okay. Now, this part I will admit, I do not think we as men, and this is as a collective, we have done a good job of professing ourselves to our women as well. You know, let's just keep it real. There's some bad dudes out there that will spoil the dating pool for the rest of us. You know, the only pushback I would say to that, like we've heard this before. Don't blame someone else for another person's mistakes. You know, that doesn't help anybody. Learn from the mistakes, see the pitfalls so you don't fall from them again. But don't bring that baggage into the nets, because all you're doing is poisoning the dating pool as you go along. And this for men and women. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's a responsibility part of all of this. Corey says something huge. Respect level. Now, I am a component of a man that says, yes, respect is earned. But what we're really talking about is just general respect. Respect as a human being. You know, that's a man, you're a woman. You want to be treated a certain type of way. You know, you want to be spoken to in a certain type of way. You don't want nobody to come at you disrespecting you, talking down to you, you know, making you feel less than. We feel the same way. It's just that simple. You know, you don't have to talk to me any type of way. You know, simple common courtesy at times. We don't even get that anymore. Like, I was raised in America in a southern state. So I'm used to opening doors for women, you know, just because. Doesn't matter. I'm just out, walking in the door, a lady behind me. Heck, she could probably be in front of me. Let me get that for you. Nothing serious. It's just, let me get that for you. I'm a man. I'm standing here. I'm going to open the door. You know, beforehand, oh, that was fine. Well, thank you, sir. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. It may start a conversation. It may not. But it's just me being a gentleman. Now, lately, and I've been noticing lately, I'm holding the door for the lady. I could have got that myself. Like, but that wasn't the point. I was just being kind. You know, I'm just trying to show common courtesy. You know, it's interesting how just showing kindness almost seems like it's not even wanted anymore. It's very interesting. But that goes to the dark side of things. You know, unfortunately, especially as a dude, you get smart enough. Being the butthole sometimes gets you further than being kind, which is crazy. But people respond to things differently. You know, interesting, huh?
Mm. Okay, no. I think obviously with the changes that happen, I think I'll allude back to my original point what I was saying, which is, you know, I think one thing that you guys mentioned, which is really key, is the respect level. Respect has shifted, right? Respect has shifted, I guess, for the everyday man. The respect has shifted. It's a case of what can you do for me in a sense now, right? Because beforehand the role was understood as he gonna go to work, okay, he gonna go to work, he gonna earn some bread, that was what it was. Everyone knew what it was, right? And if he needs to, he can fight for his family, whatever, right? But now the respect level seems to have shifted because we're in a space now where we see that things have changed because, like we said earlier on, you just providing no longer garnishes the respect it once did. You know what I mean? Like if you just earn money, I mean, listen, no, you don't get twisted. You can still get women. You can still get the women that want you for your money, etc., etc. We're not denying that at all. But in terms of obviously now the respect level, it's like there's a good part of it and there's a bad part. The good part is obviously women have come into the workplace, they see us and go, well, I can do what you do. You know, I can do what you can do. I can do what you do, and that can be a good thing. And then the other part of it could be like it can be disrespectful. So I can do what you can do. So why the hell do I need you? Kind of rhetoric, which then can also be the negative aspect, right? Which is what we're talking about. Things are changing. You're right, Trey. This is only one level to it because I think someone else put in a chat, which is quite right. We can talk about family structures. That how in the last 20, 30, 40, however so many years, there's been an attack on the family. And that's also distorted the image and the role of the man in society, the value of a man in society. That's also contributed towards what we see today, you know? So there are several components and factors that are playing on this aspect as well. Any more contribution before I ask a question? Any more contributions? Anything that's come up that you like? Let me just address it real quick. Anything on that? Corey, anything to address real quick?
Yeah. So I saw something in the comments. I think it was from Shan about the men are starting to be the prize nowadays. Okay, so I want people to know this in the comments that, you know, it's not talking about you as an individual one, but this is just general. You know, I'm speaking in general just because I don't know everyone in particular. So, but when it comes to the thought process of men being the prize versus women being the prize, yes, women are supposed to be the prize. But if you are a woman who comes to me and on our second date, you're giving me a sob story about how you can't pay your bill or your rent, and you want me to chip in, how is that? How are you the prize at that point? I'm the prize at that point. So you have situations where men are the prize because they're the ones who's providing so much to you, and you haven't given anything to show that you are on that level of a surprise. I mean, of a prize. And I'm saying this early, like in a relationship that's solid, you guys been together for years, whatever the case is, that's fine. Man, take care of his woman, right? We're talking about you're on a second date, and this has happened to me before. Second date, woman tells me that she's struggling with paying her rent and want to know if I can do anything to chip in. So my thing with that is that I already see what that game is. So there's a demographic of women who fall in line with that. Not saying that you're in that demographic or anyone else in the chat's in the demographic, but we experience things as men that, you know, that some men will say they are the prize for. But I agree that women are supposed to be the prize. My woman is going to be the prize. So that's why I just want to make sure I was clear on that.
You okay? Say something. Get a tad bit spicy. Yes, women are the prize, but the question that we men ask ourselves personally usually is, what type of prize are you trying to be? Is this a prize that I want? Does this prize fit me? You know, a lot of women are the prize, and a lot of women believe they are the prize, which can be a problem. You know, that is leaning towards arrogance now when you think you're the prize. But I do think some women need to ask themselves, okay, what kind of prize am I? If you want a certain type of man, then you need to set yourself up to get that type of man. Just like if I want a certain type of woman, I need to look for a certain type of woman. I need to present myself in a way to draw that type of woman in. What type of prize are you trying to be? You know, and it's not a general statement. It's, you know, that can really change depending on what you want and what you're trying to attract. I'm seeing a lot out here. Women are trying to turn themselves into a certain type of prize that the normal regular guy, man, whatever, Yeah, that's probably it's nice to look at, but he ain't gonna really keep that. You know, it's like a crackerjack prize. You know, you won that out the slot machine trying to win the little thing. You know, no, you know, you ain't really keeping that. So, what type of prize are you trying to be here? Like, I think that's a little deeper conversation. Just saying I'm the prize. Ooh, okay, that's great, but what type of prize are you? Like, what are you really saying?
Okay. All right. I hear you guys. The prize stuff. I hate that. I don't really do the prize stuff, but I hear you still. Okay, so in this instance, obviously, when we're talking about obviously our role as men, then what needs to change then for us as men then? So we said obviously what's changed in the society. We said obviously these things are happening. There are factors. We haven't mentioned all the factors. Great. Okay. But okay. So what do men need to change then? Or do men not need to change at all? Do we just need to hold the line, and women need to buck up their ideas and get into shape? Or is it men that need to toe the line? What is who? I want to ask that question. You know.
You know that we need to evolve. And sorry, Corey, I don't know if you want to go next.
No, you good. You got it. Go ahead.
Oh man. So I mean, you know that we do have to change. I mean, we do have to evolve in the way that we're doing things. Like I like Trey when he mentioned the PPP. I don't really know the professed part is great, but all I was just trying to say is like, from my understanding, me as a Christian man, when I'm looking my expectation as far as a man, and what I need to do is I need to work, which is going to provide, provision. I need to be in God's presence, which is the garden. I need to be able to cultivate a lot of things around me and produce, and essentially all those things, when you are following all those guidelines that God created for us as men, you should be able to evolve with those things, because nowadays mental health has been a huge thing that we are all aware of. So how is your mental health? How's your partner mental health? And how are you supporting your family mentally? When you have children, it's also very important to pay attention to those things. Are you educating yourself as a leader of your family on how to lead them in that area? There's other area too that are not necessarily related to finances, spirituality, and how we're assisting the growth of our children. So I think that it's not just about providing and then just being like, I'm going to protect my family if something is happening, but it's also about really learning what is the new family looks like and being able to lead that family. And generally, a good leader is also a good follower. And in some of the things that we have been doing, we don't necessarily know everything as men. So we have to be able to sit down with, our son, our daughters, and our spouse and other people out there and like educate ourselves on how to lead a family properly. Now, that's what we have to do, our part of the job. Now, when we're talking about the woman, that's another discussion. And if you want to go there, we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that response, because I think he's touched on something important about even mental health, right? And the mental health aspect for us as men, we as leaders have to be educated in that realm, right? Not only for ourselves in terms of like our own personal being, but also for the health of the actual family. And this is why this is where I wanted to open up the conversation to, because we spoke about provision more specifically last 2 weeks about myself, Corey, and I'm going to call your friend as well. We spoke about provision, and we're talking more about finances in a sense. But in this aspect, like when we're talking about your mental health and in this aspect as well, the mental health of you and the mental health of your family is really important, especially within the Black community, right? Because as a leader, you're supposed to take care of your home. And sometimes these are some of the things that come up that we actually miss because we're so focused or preoccupied with and making it work on the financial end, that we miss these other aspects within the constructs of family or relationship or marriage, whatever you want to call it, or even within our community, that that is also very important. Like even as amongst ourselves as men, you know, how's your mental health? How's his mental health? How's Trey's mental health? How's Corey's mental health? How are you feeling? Like, is there room to even have that conversation? Is there room to even be able to say, hey, bro, I'm feeling some type of way? And I'm saying that as a case as a leader, because a leader cares about all aspects of the people that he's leading. It's not just the financial area. Oh, you got money in your bank, so you're good. Do you know what I mean? But Corey, what was your thoughts? What do men need to change, or do women need to change? Actually, let me focus the question so it's specific. What do men need to change? We do women on an open panel. What specifically do we as men need to change in 2023, if anything?
Okay, so it goes back to what I was saying about the respect, the self-respect. We need to give women something to look up to. Give women something to feel comfortable leading them. And that's why there's like a battle right now in leadership in the household, even in families right now. Women are not trusting men to be leaders, effective leaders, and that's a problem. So if we show and prove, then they can believe more. If they believe more, I think there'll be a more cohesive family. I think they can focus on, making sure that the temperature of the family is always good, and we can focus on leadership. So so I think that's one of the things that's missing.
I like that. Okay, I like that. In regards to that as well, Corey. Men need to give something to women for them to earn. Someone might take that out of them and be like, wow, why do men have got to prove that they're worthy of that? Just expand on that concept for us a little bit more so we can get a bit more understanding, because some people will take that and run with it. So when you say you got to give women something to look up to respect, what does that actually mean? What does that entail then?
Yeah, the word leadership is such an important word. It has a lot to do with the family dynamic, how you build together, how you pretty much just how you are as a family, how you guys want to vibe together, vibe with the children, vibe as individuals. That means a lot. If you have someone at home that has your best interest at heart, if you have someone at home you can trust making decisions, even without your presence being there, that is a level of comfort that a man can give a woman. But at the same time, like I said, it's the battle of leadership. Once he has shown that, then as a woman, you should be able to let that go. Let go of the whole, I want to hold on to this leadership role, And I think that it's a misunderstanding that when men say that they want to be the leaders in the household, it seems to take away a woman's ability to be strong or to be successful. And that's not the case. Not the case at all. You're still strong. You're still black. You're still beautiful. You're still a woman. But what I'm saying is that in this particular role of family, that's the area that is meant for the man to lead. Now, there are great women out here who are leading themselves because they're single. They have kids. They have responsibilities. The kids have wants and needs. They have to make sure they get those wants and needs. So, yes, they have to lead in that capacity. But when it's the family of man and woman, then that leadership should be for a man. You should have to bear that load as a woman. You shouldn't have to. But I know some women do. So that's what I'm speaking on.
Trey, what do men need to change?
Change. I would say change. What I would say, what we need to, I guess it would lead to change, but what we need to focus on is, and we've been talking about this the last few weeks actually, we need to figure out a way to improve our emotional regulation. And what I mean by that, we need to figure out a way to express our happiness, wants, concerns, fears with the women that we're interested in a way that it won't overwhelm them. Um, the reason why I say it like that is, for I don't know, centuries, it's always been a thing for men really not to express emotions, which we have them. We just express them in different ways. But it's always been a suppression of that. Now we're in an age where, and we talked about this, women say they want that emotion, yet you have a lot of men that's expressing it. They're just giving the emotion, and all of a sudden there's a pushback from some women. Whoa, it's too much. Whoa, whoa, what? That's what you asked for. My suggestion is, okay, take this any way you want, but it seems like, okay, our emotion is probably a little bit too much, mainly because we've never had to, well, we never had to regulate it before. We never had to really practice that regulation like women do naturally, because they are the more emotional creature. You know, they live with this every day. If you notice that, you know, it get wild, but they live with it somewhere. They got a balance. We need to figure out some type of balance for our own selves. You know, how to still stay strong, stoic, that rock that your family may need, yet also be able to express when you might be feeling less than, you might be feeling down, you know, you might feel the weight of everything that you're carrying for your family. I just need somebody to support me just for a second. Talk to me, baby. You know, this is what I'm feeling. Leads us back to safe spaces. I need that safe space from you right now. You know, it's all one big circle that we're talking about here. It's one big circle. But emotional regulation, it's a talking point that you've been talking about for the last couple of years. It's not going anywhere. It needs to happen. We need to figure out some way to balance this within ourselves. And it's maybe, I guess one way, learn how to find the vocabulary to actually express those emotions effectively, that women can understand what we're really saying about our emotions. I think that's the main thing. You got a lot of guys just talking, saying how where they're thinking, they're talking and saying how they feel, but is there real understanding of it? It doesn't seem like it, especially when some women, you know, they talk about it, or I hear some women hear about it, talk about it. Like, I don't get what he's saying. I don't, you know, I'm like, okay, it sounds familiar, because let's keep it real. We've been talking about that for women for years. Like, you know, she was just talking. I ain't get what she was saying at all. I think it is some type of art form that we got to figure out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I do think I'm not perfect at it, but we had said something in the men's Discord earlier. I think Sean had sent a video or something, and some of the stuff that lady was talking about, I was like, wait, you know, my aunts. It was weird. My aunts and some of my older female cousins, they were responsible for just taking me aside, and some of my other male cousins, and just putting us up on game,
Mm.
on good and bad things that women's going to say, do to manipulate you, not manipulate you. This is what this means. This is how you move when that happens. You know, I never, I never thought that it was something wild that they was doing. I just assumed that ain't all families like this. You know, my aunts put
Mm-hmm.
me up on game. I get out in the real world, it's a shocker. I'm like, hear some of my homeboys talking, like, nah, but this is what she means when she says this. It's like, well, how you get that? I'm like, my aunts and them taught me this, you know,
Mm.
put me on game. I thought it was a regular thing. And I realized, oh, it's not. You know, there has to be some type of balance. Like, I did have a set of uncles that I learned from as well. Some strong men
Mm-hmm.
in our family. All the men on my mother's side of the family have all been in 30-year marriages. The youngest son, my mother has 12 other brothers and sisters. The youngest boy he just celebrated a few months back his 30th anniversary. 30 years. Milestone for me. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So obviously it ain't been a cakewalk, but they did something right. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So, I try to take from them as much as possible.
Okay. I appreciate it, Trey. Johan, go on, jump back in. Then Corey.
Yeah, I like what you said about emotion, because the thing about it is, we can do a lot of communication of our emotion, meaning like sharing how we feel and all those things. But essentially, another thing that you mentioned that was also very important that I want to piggyback on is acting on our emotion, because I think that's the best way to really translate what Corey was talking about, women looking up to us and respecting us, because that's how they are also very impacted. It's not necessarily that a man who's expressing how he feels is the wrong thing, and I feel like if a man ever been in that situation where he's expressing how he feels and the woman on the other hand is not able to receive it, he's dealing with the wrong woman for him, and he just got to move on or find somebody else, because there's no way you're expressing your emotion and that person is not really receptive to that. But I think that in the change, that's going to be very also obvious is not acting, based on our emotion. We need to learn how to be able to process the emotion or the thought of the emotion, ask ourselves where it is coming from, and what are going to be the consequences of those choices as a man, especially if you do have people who are relying on you. That's the reason why it's very important, when in a culture that I come from, when you tell somebody that you're a married man or a married woman, people understand that you have different obligation and responsibility. Marriage, where we come from, is another level of understanding that you have other people who are leaning on you. Now, here in America, it might be a little bit different. But I say this to say that when you have people who are essentially relying on you, your decision making cannot go through your emotion. And I think that although we are expressing it to our women, we also have to like learn how to really process them. So when we're expressing them and when we're taking action upon them, they are essentially coming from a logical place and a purpose-driven place. I just wanted to add that on to what you were saying, Trey.
Go for it, Corey.
Yeah, so I just want to touch bases on, what Trey was saying as well. When it comes to emotional and being vulnerable about certain things we like as a man, as individuals, we have to vet our women as much as they have to vet us to find out if they're the right fit for us. Like they have to find out we're the right fit for them. So ask questions. I don't mind asking a woman, how do you feel about a man who gets a manicure? If she says, "Oh, that's corny to me," I don't think some funny about that. Then okay, I'm not even gonna deal with it. How do you feel about a man who shed a tear over something that he emotionally had to deal with? Oh, man, crying? No, I can't respect a man that cries. Okay, you're not for me. So you have to just ask just general conversations, just in conversation itself. Those questions are needed to better understand who your potential partner can be. Um, so yeah, so I just want to add that piece to it. We don't have to go through being in a relationship with somebody and then we're in knee deep with them, and then when it's time for it to be emotional, they completely cut us off. By finding information out early, you set yourself up for a better outcome when you are emotional, or when you do go and get that manicure or whatever the case is, that you could be judged for in a negative way. So yeah, just better vetting from us as well.
Yeah, I definitely hear that as well. And if you're just joining us for the conversation, we are talking about from the male perspective. So if you're hearing a conversation, we're talking about how men can improve, well, if you believe that. But we're talking about obviously from a male perspective in a sense, and we're really trying to patch up the bridge between men and women. But I want to talk about what us as men, because we are leaders. So I'm dealing with us on today's topic. So obviously, again, I love these points as well. Talk about the emotion and talking about being vulnerable, and this being aspects where we can change to reflect the society that we're in now. And also have better success as being leaders as well. And I think what's really key about us as men is in 2023 is the fact that, like you said, we are tasked with being more vulnerable, and being able to share our emotions and feelings. And I think a key word here is obviously emotional intelligence. How do I share my emotions? I think this is the key part for us as men. So I think, Trey, you mentioned it a little bit, right, about the stoic man. So in 2023, I think the man that's needed is the man that's emotionally intelligent, because emotional intelligence tells you when and where to share some of your emotions. So and what's the best response in a particular time. So for instance, right, there are instances where we talk about, for instance, we spoke about this on Married at First Sight, when Chris starts breaking down and crying when he can't bring his dogs to the yard. Yeah, an emotionally intelligent person tells you, well, he's crying a bit too much at this particular time and moment, rather than bring a solution at this particular time. It's not to say he can't cry or be vulnerable or can't show any of those type of emotions, which we consider oftentimes be softer, and quote unquote, which actually ends up looking like it's being weaker in some sense. It is that there is also a role that we are tasked to play, right? So there's a time and there's a season for when we can release certain emotion. And when you become emotionally intelligent, you start to realize there's a time and season for this, right? So for instance, you're at work, right? We know, and this is people often learn this through punishment rather than actually emotional intelligence. But if your boss says, we're doing this idea and you don't like it, and you really don't like it, you don't start flaring up and getting angry about it and shouting up the whole house. You know what I mean? You disagree, you say, hey, I don't think it's a great idea, and you say your piece. If you now start getting emotionally aroused and you start getting, out of pocket in that moment, which is an emotion because you're feeling angry, you're feeling frustrated, all right, in that moment, you're not showing your emotional intelligence at that point, which is goes back to emotional regulation, as you spoke about. So as men in 2023, what's needed is what's needed here is emotional intelligence, which then allows us to be able to seek out and go, okay, do you know what? This is a safe time to tell you how I feel, tell you what's going on in my mind, or release this particular emotion. Because some emotions have varying degrees of consequence depending on what particular situation you're in that moment. So I think that's for us as men. Women can get away with this because we task them, this is their role. But for us as men, when you're called to leadership, there is a way that that we have to be able to utilize these moments and show that emotion. And I know that may be a little bit difficult, but we're learning as we go. But let me get Onu on quickly, because I don't know if he's there. He might be there. Onu, you there? He might not be there because I know he was on
I'm still here.
Oh yeah. Okay, bro. I don't know if you've heard much of the conversation, so I don't know if you can chirp in at this moment. Have you heard much of the conversation? Do you know where we're at?
I think emotional has most accountability. I mean, I know it's for me, even with dating right now, is trying to relieve toxic traits. I know for me, like what I'm going to take or not going to take, and like I can't wait until the first instance is going to show up for me to kind of say what I feel uncomfortable with. Because I noticed in the past, like I will wait 6 months, 1 year before I say, you know what, this is a problem I have in a relationship. This is the things you've done to me. How are we gonna retrieve, or how are we gonna improve this? And that's after the fact. I'm taking all this unnecessary, I'll say unnecessary damage, unnecessary pain. I've noticed, especially this week with some of the contestants on Ready for Love, it's like you want to just set what your expectations are from the jump street, from the first date. Like, what do you accept, what you don't want to accept. I'm noticing that is a better way to kind of handle these type of difficult conversations, because I think for me, like I wouldn't acknowledge these things at all. I didn't think they were important, but I noticed why they're important now, because if we don't do that, these toxic cycles continue to come over and over again. So hopefully other men listen to this can see that, hey, we have to step up and say exactly what we want. Healthy come from relationships, and hopefully the women that we are with are able to comprise that energy.
I hear that. I hear that. So obviously that's a point that obviously we're saying that men we're looking at potentially can be changing in order to bring more value to the table. I think what's difficult about this conversation, and I'll be facetious about it and quote unquote devil's advocate. What can be difficult, especially for men, is that it doesn't immediately pay off results. So let me be being emotionally intelligent doesn't get you the girl. Can I say that? You know, if I say it as a blanket statement, not necessarily the whole way through, but as a blanket statement, I don't care what women say. Being emotionally regulated doesn't always get you the girl first off. Not saying it doesn't get you girls. I'm not saying it doesn't get you in the door with women. I'm saying it don't get the women the fastest way. I'm sorry. Okay. When women start thinking about whether they're going to be in a relationship with you or not, yeah, emotional regulation is important. Emotional intelligence is, but if you got no money in the bank, there is no such thing as emotionally intelligent. You're gonna look emotionally intelligent and broke, and you're still ugly. So it don't make no. So you get. So for men, I can see why, because again, and I'm gonna say this as well. I'm gonna say this as well. Some men are, and there's a lot of men who are rewarded for this poor performance. Right? If he has money, right, crap emotional intelligence, but has money and everything else is not really great, he's still gonna get a lot of these women. Do you see what I'm saying? And again, because also he has a shallow, he probably also has a shallow um, uh, uh, definition of what in terms of what he wants as a woman as well. There's no consequence for this. The consequence is that he's still rewarded. You know what I mean? So like as much as emotional intelligence might be important, and I agree, it is, and we want to see improvement in this aspect. If you have money, it gets you in the door. It blinds a lot of people. A lot of people will give you second chances, third chances, fourth chances. A lot of people will even ignore your emotional unintelligence. They will bear the brunt and deal with some of it, so long as you got some pocket change and you look good. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that's all women, by the way. I want people to listen. I'm not saying it's all women. I'm saying that there is enough women out there, probably too many, that will reward men like this with this kind of behavior. And so there's no necessary no motivation for them to change and improve and say something like, let me be emotionally intelligent. Just like, you know, do you know what I mean? Like me being emotionally intelligent gets all the girls. No, it does not. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying in that regard, you know. Go for it, yo, and then I'll get Trey in.
Man, I don't even know. So what you just said was it was good, but like you kind of went extreme with it though, with
I did.
you know, because the thing about it is you can't really compare being broke and being emotionally unintelligent, if I should say it like that, or emotionally intelligent. Like those you know, that's like the extreme as far as like women saying no. But if you take a man who is at the same financial level of another man, um, and then one has the emotional intelligence and the one doesn't, the emotional intelligence will always win, because what emotional intelligence does to you is it really lets you know whenever it's a time and the place. You also make you understand where you need to walk in and how do you need to walk in their eyes. You know, it gives you awareness because your emotions are essentially always communicating with your being. So if it is always communicating with your being, then you become a little bit more aware about how people make you feel. Then you have that self-awareness to yourself where you know where don't not to go to not like, you know, hurt your feelings. That's why you have certain men essentially that are pursuing women that don't necessarily ask for characters and other men that do. I'm pretty sure that women who are watching the show right now, they are emotionally intelligent at some point, or they are seeking that emotional intelligence from men that like us that can share our experience. So I feel like it's more like, you know, if we're talking about the emotional intelligence in a way of improving ourselves, it's already setting us up in a specific area, which is that area or that market of people that you, Kojo, is really aware of. People that are, you know, on the path of like their self-growth and all those things. So I'm not gonna say that emotional intelligence is like the number one power out there, But I can see that when I started like learning a little bit more about my emotional intelligence, my relationship with women improved because I was able to essentially like share essentially how I felt. You know, I was showing up a little bit more clear in my intention. They were able to trust me more with my move because they knew exactly how I felt and what I was doing. So now, if you don't have a financial situation to worry about, then don't date. So I mean, I get your example, but I feel like emotional intelligence is so big nowadays because then there's less people who are hurting out there in the dating world, if I should say that.
Good points. Love that, Johan. Trey, go for it.
Listen, you know, I just noticed there, Johan's a nice guy. He's a good guy. You're a nice guy, bro. I see what you did there. You're a nice guy. But Coach Dre ain't tell no lies. Coach Dre ain't tell not one lie. Not all women, but even I've noticed going through life, trying to achieve certain things, even getting to a certain level. Yeah, you know, and I'm not this type of person. I'm not this type of person, but I did notice, you know, you gain up on the financial level, you know, few people, you know, I was noticing, wow, I could really get away with a lot more than I used to. What is this? You know, and I consider myself a good guy. I ain't trying to, you know, do too much. Have there's been times where it's been a little dark? Yeah. You know, you play games with me, I'm gonna play games back, and I know how to play. Don't play with me. All right? Don't play with me. We can have some fun, baby. Let's go. But nah, you know, it's just interesting. It's a touchy subject because you got so many examples. Listen, I'll go to music. Drake is the most emo guy in the last 12 years that we've seen. And even he has said himself, when he was broke, it wasn't nobody really checking for his light skin behind. No, emo was heck. He said it himself. He knew it. You know what I'm saying? But he got a little money. Guess what happened? Options open. Options open. Now, what you do with those options, well, that just tells who you are. You know, that thing. Nope, you said, hold on. Oh, yeah. What you do with those options, that tells who you are. And now this is where I start looking at some of the ladies. I'm like, listen now. When a man shows you who you are, who he is, believe him. Okay? You know, most men aren't good at hiding who they are for very long. You're going to see who they are in short order for the most part, especially if you ask certain questions and you carry yourself in a certain way. You're going to figure out who he is real quick. My thing I've noticed, and I've tried to help some of my homegirls out with this, I'm like, yo, he is the same dude that you dated a few months ago. Why are you talking to him? I don't even know this guy. And you're explaining things to me that sounds bad. He sounds like the last dude. Why are you talking to him? I done told you about this type of dude. Now, I done told you. What you do after that, that's on you. That's on you. But yeah, we are really talking about privileges. You know, and Johan just, you know, became an example of one.
Pretty boy yo. Pretty
Pretty
boy yo.
I'm not gonna let that slide. What are you talking about, man?
You're a nice guy, bro. You're a nice guy. You know what I'm saying?
He said Yo-Yo got that pretty privilege. When he speaks, the women just be listening. The women just be falling on him. He could be broken, they still want him. He could be broken, they still want him. The rest of us are gonna try harder.
I believe in him. You know.
You put us all in a lineup. He can be broken. They're still going to choose him.
Yeah, you're going to garner some attention, and that's fine. You know, everyone has their own privileges. Everyone has their certain type of privileges. It's just how you use it.
Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, man, and before Anderson jumps on, no, like I was reading the comments. My points was not even trying to be like the crowd favorites tonight or whatever. It was just trying to be honest. Most women, when they meet an honest guy who's sharing honestly about his emotion, they are going to listen. But again, there's a standard to at least be able to approach that woman. You know, have transportation, you know, have employment, know and be on your purpose. When we started, I talked about that a man has to be like the man in the garden. You know, you have to have work, you have to be able to produce. When you're doing all those things, then emotional intelligence should necessarily be the thing that you want to lean on, essentially. Now again, if we trying to like generalize the whole point once again, you know, y'all have a point, but I'm gonna bet on my emotional intelligence. You know, I mean that's for me now. Y'all kind of messy.
He said he's gonna bet on his emotional intelligence. Trey, he said he's gonna bet on his emotional intelligence after the woman. Some of the women here are already saying they can't even listen to him because all they see is his fine face. He doesn't realize his pretty privilege. He doesn't realize.
I'm about to mute myself, y'all.
That was a little. I'm proud of you, brother. You got a little syphilis. I like you, bro.
He don't realize how fine he looks. That these women out here are not even listening to him. They're just looking at him. That means that what I was saying was basically, you're right. I'm being facetious and I'm dragging an extreme example, right? And so I am being extreme on that. So you're right. We are talking to two different crowds. The mature women, you're absolutely right, Johan. The mature women are not thinking about what I said earlier on about men with money and they haven't got no emotional intelligence. And I even say mature. Those who also are emotionally intelligent don't look for people that are emotionally unintelligent. Right? I mean, they do end up trying to date them, but they quickly find out they don't want to be in that space for very long. So you're right. Those women too, you're absolutely right. As you're talking to, you're not actually wrong. We're talking to two different sets of women that we're talking about. So you're actually right. I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I think what I wanted to allude to was that some of these men, the reason why they're not going to go for emotional intelligence is because it doesn't necessarily bargain the exact same way immediately. Emotional intelligence is actually more with the maintenance of a relationship rather than the attaining of a relationship. Because when I go in there, people are looking at my credentials, they're looking at my finances, they're looking at my plans, they're looking at my vision. But emotional intelligence, I mean, listen, don't get just women are saying they want that, but that's not the first thing on their mind. I'm sorry, when you come in there with your 5-foot self, they really judge you. If you come in there with your 6-foot self, they judge you. If you come in there with a fineness that Johan is bringing to the table, they judge you. Yeah. If you got abs and muscles, they're judging you. And so it's like it starts. It's what I'm saying. That's what gets you in the door. So I'm not saying that you're wrong at all. By the way, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying what gets you in that door. Like if you have shmoney, I'm sorry, the ladies be saying what they want to say, but I'm not saying it's all women. But a lot of women are going to give you some time, extra time, when you have extra money. Just like they're going to give you extra time when you look so good like yourself, when you smile with that Colgate smile of yours. All right, and listen, jump in for us as well, bro. We're talking about the role of a man and the purpose of a man, and we're just talking right now as well. What is the point of men being even emotionally intelligent? Because we kind of got into that section of conversation, but let me just get your perspective. What is the purpose of a man in 2023 for you? What's the purpose of a man for you?
Oh, me? Okay. This is I wanted to touch on something that Trey said before. You know, when a man gets money, it just accentuates the man you already were. It doesn't really change you; it just accentuates the person you are. So, like, yeah, money really doesn't change people. It just brings out the person you really are deep down inside. Like you said, you can't hide who you are as a man. It's going to show eventually. I feel like there are still traditional ways that men are needed, like still for protection. You know, obviously we're not in the cavemen kind of, you know, go hunt and all that, but we still have to protect our women. We still have to have masculine energy to support them in their endeavors and what they're doing. But I believe in traditional roles. You know, just like the man has to be a provider, and they may not need us to be providers. They can go get their own job, get their own careers. But at the end of the day, like, you know, I don't think these women out here, I don't think they want to die alone. I don't think they want to live, you know, lives where they're not getting married. So I think men are still as needed as they've always been to play our traditional roles as providers and protectors.
I hear that, Cap. I hear that. So we'll talk, and obviously, then building on that, do you think that men need to change in 2023? Do you think there's an aspect of men that needs to change in 2023, that needs to improve or be better or not be better or whatever? Do you think there needs to be change in some aspects for us?
I mean, if you're a real man, you're always trying to improve. No, you're always trying to better yourself. I'm always trying to better myself. You know, that to me, that's what being a real man is. Always trying to improve, learn, and better yourself. You know, because you know you're supposed to be the leader. So the leader's always supposed to be improving. I don't want to go into the just the cliche molds as far as, you know, but I would like to see a little more masculinity out there with the men, especially when we're raising our young boys. You know, I don't have any kids, but, you know, I do. I know there's fathers out there that, you know, it's a difficult time to be raising a young man right now. So, you know, that's just I feel like that's the only thing we can change. Like, you know, just bring more of that traditional masculinity to our young boys, you know, for our future.
When you say masculinity to the men, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I guess in the traditional sense, you know, it's just stoic, being able to be in touch with your emotions, but not being overly emotional to the point where you're almost like a woman, you know, from that standpoint. So just being able to be a leader, to where if you have a partner, yes, your partner can be involved. Your partner can be involved in the decision making, but you are the leader. You have the final say. Like those type of traditional things that I would like to raise up into our next generation.
Okay, I hear it. All right. Appreciate it, Anderson. Thank you. Good points there. All right. So, yeah, listen, we're asking these questions. Why women don't need men in 2023? It's more of a facetious title. It's not a true question I was actually asking. I just wanted to get people in the room, okay? Before some of them come for me and try to hang me with a noose. But I want to ask a question then. For real though, for real. What are men good for? Because someone might ask this question, like, you know, 2023, what are men actually good for? It's going to go back to kind of what Trey was kind of saying a little bit. But, you know, if a woman could provide for herself, you know, she can do test tube baby, you know, she can do all those things. She can even buy a gun. What does she need your ass for? She can even pay the bills. What does she need your ass for? That's what we asking. What does she need you for? You know what I mean? What can you supply then? Because, brother, they can pretty much do everything themselves. They even got vibrator for you. They don't even need you anymore. You're actually out the window. Like, what do they need a brothers for? Because it's looking a bit bleak. I ain't gonna lie to you. You know, it's looking a bit bleak. So what are we needed for? Like, in terms of your perspective, what are we needed for? I'm asking that question. Johan, you're smiling at me. Why are you smiling like that, bro? Why do they need you?
I'm smiling because I love the question. The question is a great one because in our togetherness between us men and women, we essentially have lost the sense of working as a team. What I'm trying to say is we don't show up in the dating relationship as to let's figure out how this team can make it to the championship. Generally, when you found team in the NBA, we essentially are building a team that generally has, you know, a big man who can defend above the rim, you know, a point guard who can lead the basketball. And the thing about that is we have convinced ourselves that the center is always going to be the better player than the point guard. And the point guard now is wanting to show everybody that the point guard is actually the one leading. So there's a power struggle here when it comes down to a team. So if you show up and act like who can I use as an example? Kobe and Shaq before they broke up, right? Kyrie and LeBron before they broke up. Then you're gonna win those championships. The issue is because we all show up to the practice squad and all want to be like, I got to get the ball. I got to get the ball in the last, and you're not winning. And we just got to see how the NBA works nowadays. That's the basketball is like probably like the most sport that you can use for analogy like this. So what I would say that essentially what the woman in 2023 need men for is what we just mentioned: emotional regulation, executing not based on your emotion, but what makes sense for the family. Learning how to put yourself, learning how to put the family first before you. Be able to step up to the plate and help and be that solution whenever needed. D.L. Hughley said something that I really like. He said, "My woman will always see me try and lose, but never see me not try and just be defeated." That's just alone something that most women want. And again, you guys are going to say I'm trying to be the chat favorite tonight, but I'm just speaking from the school of my dad, right? That's just all I know. So I think that we essentially have to lead in all the areas where women essentially need us, but we also have to be able to listen where they are leading us, because there are some areas where women can lead us better than we can. So let's work as a team first in order to understand really what we need the men for.
I love that answer. Only go for it.
I mean,
That was a solid answer.
I agree with Yohan, but on some points. But I think to compound on that, you also need balance. So I understand your analogy about Shaq and Kobe, but sometimes we have one of too much. It kind of balances everything off. So I think you more need yin and yang. I know what Kojo was saying, like, yeah, women can have men, children without men, but when it comes to teaching and raising them, for the most part, you always will see them. Hey, I'm gonna need to have some type of fatherly figure. So even though you can do something on your own, doesn't always mean it's the best. And if you want to nurture it the right way, you're going to have to make a compromise to have a 50-50 or one part and comparison with another part. You're going to need a mother's and a father's love in order to raise a healthy individual. When you put all this earnest on one sex, i.e., the single mother, it kind of balances everything out. Where you're going to get the other father advice? Maybe that might benefit the child initially early in their lifespan, but eventually they're going to need that type of guidance, no matter if they're a boy, man or a girl. I might not remember my Bob didn't breastfeed me, but again, there were those talks, there's those things that I got older, I was able to appreciate. And even now that he's not around, I can be appreciative of, hey, my dad was able to sit down with me and tell me, hey, right from wrong, do this or that. This is how you're going to better yourself as an individual moving forward. You kind of need that. And when it comes to even my future relationships, again, I know I can't raise a child on my own, but I want to be with someone that's going to allow us to do this together. And I think sometimes when it comes to, again, that competitive balance, when you have two people who are going to be fighting for attention or be that dominant, like a Shaq and Kobe, that's going to be great if both people can learn to succeed in that type of environment. But for the most part, there's some people are overly dominant and some people are not overly dominant. And what happens is like, hey, if I have to shoulder 100% of the burden and this guy only has to do 10, one person's going to feel left out. And the person's giving the 10 is like, hey, I'm giving the best I am. But again, we're not be appreciated. So I kind of feel like we want to strive balance. I think in 2023, that balance looks a lot different than it did look, let's say, a couple of decades ago or generations ago. What worked in the 60s and 70s doesn't work in 2023. We have to have an open mind exactly what we want from life, what we want from relationships moving forward, and how that's going to help the next generation. If anything, for men, I think we have to be more meek-minded. Like I hear about providing and protecting. Providing and protecting in the 70s is a lot different in 2023. We all can agree to that. But at the same time, are we both working together to the same goal? And for the most part, there's some instances where we might not be doing that, or it might not seem the same exact way, or we might be fighting each other. we make it more financial than in what's benefit for, let's say, the community, that's when things kind of break down. And I think that's the main thing that I'm seeing now, that we're, in general, when it comes to us in a Black community, that's the main issue. We're not working together and how to build those type of relationships, or we're choosing people who we might not be the right partners for us to have those type of relationships.
Loving these points, boy. Loving these points, bros. This is changing the game. Anderson, what's your thoughts? Oh, do you want to unmute you? Go for it, Anderson. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Is it Anderson? No, my thing is this. I don't know if any of you guys in this chat have you guys ever been like lonely? Like, have you ever been like literally lonely? Like, women need us because we are their companions. Like, sometimes we forget what it's like to feel actual lonely. The feeling of loneliness, it's dreadful. Like, I'm not saying just get with anybody or just pick somebody just because you don't want to be lonely, but we can never forget the human desire and need for companionship. Like, I know all the relationship stuff, all the sophisticated stuff. I understand that as well. But we have a deep desire for companionship. That at the end of the day, when you're in that room by yourself, you feel it. It's heavy. You feel it. So my thing is just, you shouldn't settle for just any companion. But focus, but don't jump into relationships. Focus on yourself, and then the person you want will come to you. I feel like sometimes people, out of necessity, get into these relationships, where if they would maybe been a little bit more patient, or maybe dealt with that small period of loneliness while they're working on themselves or building themselves back up, they wouldn't jump into these relationships where they're getting married to people they're not supposed to be getting married to, they're having children with people they're not supposed to be having children with. And just like the brother was saying earlier, you have to pick wisely. You have to pick wisely. Like that's what we need to do. Like make your decision. Put some thought behind it. Don't just do it willy-nilly. Be conscious of what you're doing. Like be what's the word I want to be not mindful. It basically means to be present with your thought. Like don't just do a throwaway thought. Like be mindful of what you're saying and what you want to do when you jump into these relationships. 'Cause I think a lot of times in the Black community there's relationships of convenience. And that's kind of what I'll say. Like that's why I like us to stay away from relationships of convenience, because it's a girl or this or your baby. It's like too much relationships of convenience, and we're not actually getting with the partners that we truly seek and want. I think that's my little take on it.
I like that companionship keyword there. I like that. Thank you, Anderson. Trey. Thank you, Anderson. I say Anderson. Sorry, Andre. I keep saying Anderson, bro. I was like, who's Anderson? Andre, my bad, bro. Sorry about that, bro. Trey, talk to me.
Yo, hit me with the question one more time. It's gonna be interesting.
What are men needed for? Like if women can pretty much do everything now, what's the point of you, bro? You know what I mean?
Two poignant things. First one is interesting enough. I think we as men can come up with many different answers to this question. I personally have thought about it and asked this question in reverse to a woman that's seemingly not in need of wanting of a man. I would ask them, well, what do you want? Like, what type of man do you want, or what type of man, or how does this man need to present? And it's funny how some of them, when you turn the question around, they can barely answer it themselves. Just an interesting thought, number one. Number two, and this might be going down a different path. I think this may have to be a whole nother live when I say this. I find it very interesting. What we're really talking about here, and let me be specific. We're talking about wants versus needs. And have you noticed, especially in the last 20 years, have you noticed women almost have this violent allergic reaction to the word need all of a sudden? My question is, where is this coming from? And it's a can of worms. I know it is. Where is this coming from? Because you notice, like we said earlier, ours, we really haven't changed. We know we need you as men. We understand that. I don't think that's one thing, or I'm even going to say in a heterosexual sense. We know as men that we need someone in our lives. Usually, most men don't find out who they really are until they find that certain partner to build a life with. Point blank, period. That's when you start to become complete. My question is, why all of a sudden we get this weird allergic, like, oh, no, I don't need a man. I want a man. Well, what do you want in a man? It seems like you're confusing yourselves here, because we're confused.
Trey, why do they need us? We'll get to that in a second. I promise you, we'll get to that point. But why did they? Why do they need? Why do we? What is it? What are men needed for? I'm asking. What are men needed for?
I still think we're needed for the basic necessities.
Mm-hmm.
Usually protection and provision. Because you notice we're always going to circle back around to that. Now, how that looks within that woman's life, or how she views it, how it looks, that's going to, well, honestly, we're talking about women, so that's going to change a little bit of how they're feeling, of how they want it, especially nowadays. We found ourselves now trying to cater to their emotions more and more as men. And it's kind of throwing us off balance in a way. Now we're butting heads more than ever. And it is interesting. And it always keeps coming right back to this. What do you want? We're still trying to figure out answers for this. I can say what I think she might need all I want to. Is that what she wants? Where that align? Will we align somewhere down the line? Can we come to some type of conclusion here? Like I say, I think it still is going to circle back around to protection and provision. Emotional regulation from us a little more, and really learning how to, especially in 2023, better communication. Our communication styles may need to change or something, and it can't be one side or the other. I can't just communicate like you. You can't communicate like me. We need to figure out some type of language that we can communicate and meet in the middle someplace. To the simple of something as simplistic as, when I say this is what I mean. Especially and that's kind of a man way of thinking, because we're very logical. When you say this, what does this mean? ABC, break it down. I took physics. I was good in it, so we can do X plus Y equals Z. I can think on a metaphorical level, but we need to figure out a way to break this down and meet somewhere in the middle. I need to be able to explain to you what I'm trying to provide, what I'm trying to protect you from. Are you going to allow me to stand in that space? That's another thing. I can say, I know I can be a good protector. I know I'll be a good provider, but it's still going to come down to, are you going to allow me to stand in this space?
I hear that.
Now, if you're going to allow me to stand in this space, that's your word you're giving me, because I'm a big component about that. Your word is your word.
Trey, you answered it. You answered it. Don't worry, you answered it. You answered it. Trey gonna give me all the scenarios. I appreciate that, Trey.
I digress.
Sean, I don't know if you've heard much of the conversation, so but we're asking this question now. What are men needed for? What do women need men for then? If women can buy a gun, protect themselves, if they can put their eggs in tubes and get kids, if women can get their own money, what are men needed for? What do you think men are needed for then?
Listen, I think women know exactly what they need us for. They like to pretend. Maybe they want to devalue, right? But we have lots of purposes, and I'll start with just balance, right? And similarly, that's why we need women, right? Because if you're left alone and in a vacuum by yourself, you're not going to be successful, right? People die alone. And I'm not saying women or men, but people, right? So first the companionship piece, and then the other part is balance. So for the things that women have, men complement those things, right? We talk about, the balance in emotionalism. Now, this is a good man, right? So we're not talking about men who are not emotionally balanced, or men who are not emotionally intelligent, right? A good man brings balance to your relationship. And with that balance comes peace. And also it gives you someone to vet your ideas out with, right? Someone to be able to build a life and a family with. And as much as you can go to the sperm bank and get a child, you still need a man on the opposite end to be a donor for that sperm. So you still can't do it by yourself and in a vacuum, right? Just the same way that men cannot have children without women, right? We can go get a surrogate, but that surrogate needs to be a woman, right? So, and also most importantly, we were designed to be together. And for those of us that are believers, we were designed to be together. So we are in our just sheer definition and our DNA are designed to be with one another. And when we are together healthily, we grow and we prosper. So yes, there's just some things that we can't put our fingers on. And then there's the things that are just obvious, right? We need each other for love. We need each other for intimacy. We need each other for, satisfaction. When people are together and in harmony, they have a better quality of life. Typically, people do better together than by themselves, right? A business is more successful as a corporation, which is a collective of people doing things together, right? You can have a sole proprietorship business, right? But which businesses are most successful? They're most successful when you have a collection of people, and a relationship is most successful when you have two people, a man and a woman together. So yeah, are there things that you can do by yourself? Can you technically do certain things by yourself? Absolutely. But is that the end goal? At the end of the night, how do you feel when you go to bed by yourself versus going to bed having a warm body next to you? Right? How do you feel waking up when you know and you can think about plans that you have to make with someone versus you making plans around yourself? Right? And then you see the folks out there who are making singledom look real good, right? But they have to conjure up ways to make those things look good, right? It's all conjuring up. Oh, let me sit and manifest all the great ways that I can be single by myself. But nobody really wants to be alone. And I love it. And I know you touched on it a little bit in the intro, right? You talked about Sierra's new song, right? So many of the sisters is like, nah, leave that independent stuff alone. I'm good, Sierra. You got a whole husband at home. We want relationships. So for the woman that wants to see the value in a man, she will understand and see the value that a good man, I want to say good, I want to qualify it by good, right? Because you can have any man, I can have any woman, but I want a good woman, right? So it's okay to be single as you are waiting, but don't let the waiting be forever, because then you will sit and convince yourself that, oh, it's all good by myself. No, we as humans are designed to be, in relationship with each other, right? And Andre, I believe you mentioned it earlier, right? That loneliness, of not having companionship after a long time. Yes, can I go and have a good consortium of friends and have a good outlet and professional groups? But ultimately, at the end of the day, when I go to bed, I want a woman next to me. I want that warm energy. I want that balance. I want that comforting feminine nature right next to me on my pillow. And I would think a healthy woman would like to have the same in a man, right? Does that mean we're always going to have it? No. Sometimes you're in a state where you have to be by yourself. So yes, can you thrive? But don't get it twisted. You need us and we need you. When we hear the single woman's fire alarm chirping, you need a man. Sorry, sisters. Don't try to disqualify us. You need us. When you get in your thoughts and you ramble and you rant on about things, you need a man to come in and just kind of give you that balance and say, hey, babe, I hear you. But, have you thought about it this way? Challenge your thoughts, challenge your ideas. You don't know everything. Just like I don't, the ladies don't. And the more we recognize what we do need and what we don't have, the better off we'll be. My thoughts.
Johan, you said you wanted to contribute quickly as well. Go for it.
No, I love what Sean said, and for me, it's just like giving like those very example on like why women need men and men need women, because nowadays, because women are able to provide and take care of themselves on their own, some tend to lose a sense of the importance of a man because they were never exposed to healthy manhood or healthy man leadership. So what I would say to women who are listening or watching, having a healthy male leading in your life or being in your life is a blessing as much as for us men, having a woman who is genuine and caring for us also at home, because we all need each other. There are certain spaces where a man will walk in and be welcome and get things done for the house that a woman would not do. Same thing with a woman. There are places where a woman will go and get things done that a man would not necessarily be able to thrive there and struggle. And like I've always said on this platform, there is a reason why my shoulders are wider and your hips are wider the way they are. God intended that on purpose, because there are certain things that I can push, lift, and there are certain things that you can carry and hold that I would not be able to do the same thing, and it goes back to having healthy example within our community, and we lack healthy example within our community. I don't want to stretch this out, but I think that in America, what I've noticed is, the new culture changed the standard of what the role models were in our community. So it kind of like screw everything up from there.
I'm hearing this. No, I like it, man. You know what? I definitely believe that, men are needed. And I'm going to even talk about a capacity that even stems potentially outside of even the relationships. I think the boys have covered that really, really well. But I love the points you guys mentioned: companionship, balance, the ability to complement one another, teamwork. I think these are great themes that are needed to be expressed, especially for those of us, and I'm going to say it, if you don't earn £1 million, you're on a normal level like the rest of us, men. Your money don't speak for you. So I need you to come and listen to this, because we're all in the same boat, rowing the same boat. Your money, she got the same amount of money as you now. So unless you're in that 10%, 1% of people that earn money, come listen to this, because we all need some teamwork here, okay? Because none of us earn enough. All right. So, but in all jokes aside, I think the points that were made are really important, because I think they go beyond just the points that I mentioned, because I said a woman could do could get a gun to protect herself. She could, she can move to a nice neighborhood. She could, do surrogacy. But what you guys are saying, I'm talking about the themes involved here. Companionship cannot be bought. It really cannot be bought. Teamwork with the right person in a relationship cannot be bought. You know what I mean? Having someone in your corner that supports you cannot be bought. And if you ask any man on this panel, you having the right woman that believes in you and encourages you to keep on striving is invaluable. You cannot buy that. It is something that's what I'm saying. You choose that right person, and that person can literally change the outlook of your life. You get the right person. So those are the themes we're looking at. Balance as well, because we have it on this channel. We have a men's panel today, but on Tuesday we'll have both men and women. And the reason, someone see Z is losing it, and the reason why, but she's right. I ain't even mad at it. She's right, but but the reason why it's important again to have the balance of energy is because one can't see it only his way, because the other person sees things differently. And I told you guys about this analogy about the rally car racing, that it takes two. The rally car driver is doing this, the mechanism of just turning the wheel, whatever angle the instructor says to turn it at. And that's the complementary energy. But even in life, where we, when you have a woman that speaks into and says, I see it like this, you're like, right, I never saw it like that. How the hell do you see that? Like, I don't know if you guys were Christians. Some of us are Christians here, right? You ever read the Bible with a woman before? Sometimes they see some stuff, you're like, I never saw that. It's like, wait, how did you get that? Because their brain thinks differently. Having somebody see it from a different perspective can be an awesome thing to open you up to different avenues and different thoughts and different ways of thinking. So it's needed as well, So we're looking for complementary energy, not competitive energy. Like, what I mean? We want to complement, not necessarily compete in that sense. So yeah, those points that you guys have brought up have been really important. I think, especially, I'm going to focus more on the protection piece as one of the values of men in this society. Something that's not going to change is men are going to rule. I'm sorry. I know women won't like it. They're going to rule. And guess what's going to happen? So long as men are going to rule, there are always going to be wicked and bad men out there. You understand? And I'm not just talking about physically. I'm talking about they will write bad policies. I'm talking about how they emotionally hurt people. I'm talking about how they mentally, spiritually, physically, financially abuse the weaker party. All right? This is both men and women that will get affected by this. But this is the protection piece that's needed, right? Because, unless people actually stand in the gap and defend, these wicked men will do whatever they want. I mean, they're already doing what they want in some sense of the word. We see how our society is right now, right? But if you don't have that protectional piece, and I'm talking about in all those other areas of intimacy, it's needed, because there are wicked men out there in all those areas. There are men out here who want to take advantage of you, physically, sexually, financially, emotionally, mentally, right? So there is a need for us, irrespective, because men are supposed to stand up to other men. Can I be honest with you? I'm not saying women can't, but the reality is men are supposed to stand up to other men, right? We spoke about this on this channel. We said when you see a man wrestling with a woman arguing, it really needs another man to step in and be like, let me handle this, because of the way that we think and the way that we maneuver. So unfortunately, right, the system that we have, fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, it needs men in this world to defend and to protect in all those areas as well, But I want to play a clip because you guys spoke about something. You guys spoke, well, Trey was going down the rabbit hole, but I have a clip for Trey, and I have a clip for this conversation as to where it is, because you mentioned something really important. And I think we've all heard this before about a woman not needing a man, but I want you to listen to this breakdown by this lady. She breaks it down in a particular way, and I think it's quite a good breakdown. Let me
I feel like most women don't want to need a man. That's the truth.
Okay.
Because
go back so we can get the whole conversation, because it's a really good conversation. Listen to this. It's a really
that I chose in this life, which is being physically female. And I feel like most women, they don't need a man. That's the truth. Because and perfect person to be talking about this because, I mean, men ruined my life. I'm going to be honest. But like, am I going to make it about men or am I going to make it about people? Because to be honest with you, women have ruined my life as well. And so it can't be just like a gender thing. And what I notice is that when we feel utterly powerless to something that's causing us pain, we want to not need that thing. I mean, who the hell wants to need something that's hurting it? But to say, I don't need this thing that, quite frankly, do resistant nature, be it self-denial, it's a pretend that this is, everyone can feel that it's
Oh, God came with the shebang. Okay. All right. What's your thoughts, guys? I don't know if you actually heard it because my internet was moving mad. Sometimes we moving mad out here. Did you guys hear it?
Yeah, it was choppy. I couldn't.
Was
I
choppy?
heard the first part, but I don't think. Yeah, the audience said the same thing. They didn't really hear what she was saying.
Went a bit chop. Okay, so let me do this for you guys. I'm gonna do this. Apologies about that, guys. Let me do this and I'll do it from behind. There we go. Okay. All right, cool. What I'll do is this, and I'll put it. I won't play the video. I'll just put it behind, so it doesn't interfere. Okay.
complement to the expression that I chose in this life, which is being physically female.
Ever after, but that.
Okay, let's go. Here we go.
Why do you need a man?
Because I feel like it's a perfect complement to the expression that I chose in this life, which is being physically female. And, you know, I feel like most women, they don't want to need a man. That's the truth. Because of the amount of pain that we've been through. And I'm a perfect person to be talking about this because, I mean, men ruined my life. I'm going to be honest. But like, am I going to make it about men or am I going to make it about people? Because to be honest with you, women have ruined my life as well. And so it can't be just like a gender thing. And what I notice is that when we feel utterly powerless to something that's causing us pain, we want to not need that thing. I mean, who the hell wants to need something that's hurting it? But to say, I don't need this thing that, quite frankly, we do need, A, it's resistant in nature, B, it's self-denial, and it's avoidance. This is pure resistance. We can't pretend that this is in alignment. Everyone can feel that it's not.
If there is something, one thing that you could change.
Can everybody hear that? Everyone can hear that clearly? Was it still choppy? Yeah, that's cool. What's your guys' thoughts on that? Because that was in alignment with what you were saying about needing a man, not needing a man. Because I think ladies even asked, why is it that men always say that, like, you know, about them being wanting to be needed and stuff. So I wanted to kind of get you guys' perspective. You know, what's your guys' thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on the video? Trey, okay, so Sean, go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, you know, one of the things that resonated with me is that she mentioned two very important key parts. Is that just because she's been hurt by men doesn't mean that she doesn't need a man, right? And then she comes to a revelation that, you know, women have hurt her too. So it doesn't mean just because someone's gender or sex has hurt them, that means you throw out the whole individual group of people, right? So I think sometimes, you know, and I think this is one of those instances where, you know, I don't really know her, never heard of her. I don't know what her whole ideologies are all about. But I think that part we can take with us, because for some of the ladies, you know, and I'm seeing it in the chat, right? Like, I don't need a man. I could do that. I could, right? Like all of those things, like, and I could need versus want, right? Some of that comes from hurt. Some of that comes from past experience where you've allowed a man to come in and you've trusted him, and that trust was betrayed, right? So, which is why I tried to be clear, and I know Kojo and everyone else here, it's not just any man. It's the right man. And trust me, good men do exist. And sometimes it really does frustrate me when we have to start going down this rabbit hole of defending that good men really do exist. Good black men are really out here. We exist, guys. They definitely do. And a good man doesn't mean a perfect man, right? Just like there's no perfect woman, right? You know, and as us as men, we can recount relationships and situations where women did things that hurt us too. But that doesn't mean we disqualify all the women. You know, that just means that some women that we interacted with weren't the right ones for us, or women that did hurtful things. So I think we just need to bring a little bit more balance when we talk about each other, when we reference each other. And sometimes we bring that inherent unconscious bias that can seep in, and then it just overpowers truth, right? Every man that's walking the street is not bad, right? And we can't get up here and say the majority of black men are horrible. No. I'm not going to buy into that notion. I'm not going to buy into that narrative, because if you subscribe to that, then that's what you will encounter. And then everything that's around you will be just that. You will see it through that lens. You will experience it that way because you're projecting. So I think what she's saying is we do need each other. And if you are hardcore disqualifying that a man can't do anything for you, then that's more than likely it's coming from a place of hurt, because somebody hurt you to an extent and you feel that there's no value. So you've now learned to sustain yourself without a man. You've learned to live and do for yourself and fill in the blanks. But ultimately, none of us are the creators of Frankenstein. So we can't create another man. I can't create a woman, right? There's no machine, right? We got that rose flower tool, right? It ain't gonna put me out of business. You know, you can get that rose tool and you can fill it with as many batteries or charge it up any kind of way you want, but it ain't gonna replace me. You can try, but it's not. And there's no life-size woman doll that has good juicy innards that's going to replace a woman. And I don't want it. So I'll land my plane there.
Go for it, Andre. Go for it.
One thing I that I like that she said, she mentioned the fact that if you are steadfast on being anti something that is so, she mentioned the fact that it was unnatural to be so against something that is like so natural, like you're fighting your own natural instincts of something that you need, just because like Sean said, just because you had a bad experience. Like, you know, I've gone to restaurants where I've had a bad experience, but you know, it doesn't shy me away from going to restaurants. I mean, I still, you know, you can't let bad experiences just salt you on the entire sex of men. You know, you have to realize there are some bad men, just like we know there's bad women, and also we have to be accountable. When you were picking that person, you kind of knew. A little bit of you knew you was picking a bad person, but you was, oh, I'm gonna fix him. I'm gonna fix her. I'm gonna build her up. A little piece of you knew that you weren't making the right decision. A little piece of you, honestly, God's honest truth, you knew deep down in your heart you wasn't doing that, but you was trying something. You believed in it, and then it didn't work out. And then, but that's just how life is. You gotta dust yourself off and keep it going. And you know, it's a balance. Don't make men jump through a million hoops, and also don't let the dude come in that can't jump through one hoop. You know what I'm saying? You gotta find your balance. I mean, that's all it is. I think one of my female friends used to say, sometimes people gotta acknowledge when their picker is broken. You know, sometimes we make bad decisions. I acknowledge that. A lot of my past relationships, I feel like I may have made some bad decisions, you know, and I got to hold on to that. I'm not going to sit here and blame this woman for just being herself. I met her. That's how she was. I made decisions. So like, you got to hold yourself accountable for the picks you make. And when those picks do fumble, you know, you can't, cast that on the entire sex of people, you know, men and women.
Appreciate Andre. Good bars. Yeah. People got to be responsible for who they're picking and choosing. Okay, cool. Johan, go for it.
Yes, sir. I would like to add to the conversation based on the comments from someone that said, you guys act like it's safe for a single woman to operate in the mindset of needing a man. This puts her in the desperation and bad choices and vulnerability to predators. I think that mindset is the reason why a lot of Black women or a lot of women today say they don't need a man, because they automatically think that if they put their mindset in needing a man, it automatically means that they're going to put themselves at the mercy of getting hurt, being abused, and manipulated. But the thing about the mindset of needing a man is understanding the benefit of partnership. And because you know that this partnership is so valuable, then you need a man. So now, the way that you go about finding that man, like Andre was saying, is where you really have to hold yourself accountable. What kind of man are you looking for your family? Do you even want a family? What are the things that you wanting to do? What are the conversations that you are having that are beyond just a surface about where they're going in life? And I think that we all need to do a better job of vetting people. Us men, we also do. That's why we are in this boat having the conversation about men and women being good and bad. But at the end of the day, if our original calling was to understand the importance of a partnership, then it's okay to say that you need a man. Because I need a woman. I need a woman to do a lot of things in my life that I know that I won't be able to necessarily understand. Now, the only thing about that is, even the Bible, today is Sunday. Yes, I'm going to quote the Bible. Even the Bible says that it's not good for a man to be with a quarrelsome woman. The Bible says that in Proverbs, it's better for a man to sleep outside than being in the house with a woman who likes to argue. Same thing with men. We are called to do certain things and be a safe and protective place for you guys. So I just think that with that conversation of saying need and want, it's just because whenever we ever said that we needed that, it always turned into a disappointment. Rather than changing what we want to accomplish, how do we go about changing the way that we're accomplishing it, right? Because they say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different result. So if I want to find a wife, how about I change the way I find my wife? And if you want to find a husband, that you said that I need my husband in my life, how about you change the way that you go about it and follow wherever the person that you're looking for is? And essentially, it's not one size fits all, but we all know that there's the natural calling for us men and women. And like Sean said, this is where I rest my plane. Is that what you said?
Landed, but that's
landed. There we go.
It's all the same, brother.
I was close.
Good points, Johan. I love that. Good points. J Trey.
Everyone pretty much said it. I think the thing that gave me the most perspective and affected me is what Andre was mainly alluding on, that Johan backed up and Sean started. I don't understand this fight against something that's been put into our very nature. It's literally turned into a fight. That's why I brought it up a little while ago. Where is this fight coming from? That's what I don't understand. It's something that's always been in us. We come as, in most senses, a mated pair. But we want to fight about the vernacular of things all of a sudden, when that really doesn't matter. We're arguing about the vernacular. This is what we're arguing about. Just a word. Yeah, I got too much to say on that. It's given a lot of Job. I say that. Job always fought against God. A lot of Job. But
Before gays, God.
I mean,
That's not where it came from.
go back to what I just said. What did it say in Proverbs? What did it say? Go outside. Go
Hold
outside.
on.
You don't want to fight for that. That's
Can't tell Trey where it came from.
Anu, jump in if you're there. I know he's on call, so he might not be there.
I wish I agree with what everyone has to say. I mean, with the video, I think one of the things about growing and maturing is picking the right people to have relationships with, or realizing the people we shouldn't have. I think I'm going to say attracted to the wrong people, but sometimes the choices we make earlier in life aren't the same choices we make once we have more experience. I feel bad how she's kind of typecasting all men, or the men she's been with in her previous past have now shaded her away from men in the future. I think a better way would be like, what happened that she chose those particular men that took the stage of her life, and then what is she looking for into the future? People, I understand sometimes people need time to heal and reflect, but like just to shut out dating, or I don't know what she's looking at in her life, it just feels like it's an immature response to that. If it was me, I wouldn't live my life for that. I think, just because I made bad decisions in the past, it shouldn't negatively impact me in the future. But if anything, what I'm not looking for my future, I think that's the main thing.
Johnny? Yeah, Sean, you want to say something? Go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I starred Lin's comment. It was at the 22-minute mark. And I think that is what she mentioned there. I think that is why some of the reason why we may be getting some resistance from some of the women around the need versus the want. The reality that people aren't guaranteed. And I think it's that reality, right? And again, I think that goes back to that's part of like our inner hurt, or our inner maybe disbelief of what may be outcomes for us, or us trying to reconcile our situations to say, you know what, I see the value, because I think as we listed, all of us, men up here listed various reasons that we find value. But then we get in the semantics battle of need versus want, right? But like, who cares? Like, who cares? Why are we like? Does it really matter? Do you if you want a man, say that, right? It's nothing wrong with saying you're not being weak by saying you want a man, right? There's nothing that makes you destitute if you say that, right? Now, will that come your way? We don't know. And the other part of it is the need doesn't mean that the fact that that man may not come to you doesn't mean that a man can't add value in your life, right? So just because you may not find a man that is good and a value in your life doesn't discount that men have value and there's benefit and a need for that man. It just so happens that you just didn't find a partner. You didn't find a husband. Now, does that mean you can exist healthily by yourself? Of course. So just the fact that you need a man and you may not get one doesn't mean that, okay, your life is not worth living. That's not what anyone is saying. We're saying, let's just give each other credit to say what the value is in each other. And in this instance, the value that a man has. But let's not dismiss us because you feel like, okay, I might not find a good man. Don't dismiss us and say, oh, well, I can find and I can find value in a sisterhood. Okay, you can, but it's still not going to replace a man. So, I think that is, and I don't think, and I hope that no one feels like we're single shaming or saying, oh, if you happen to not find a good man, or if you've given a man a choice and now you're just in a position where you want to be by yourself, that's okay. That's okay. Nobody's selling you on us and saying, oh, you got to find me. I'm going to beat you over top of your head, with the value that I think I bring to the table. No, if I always want to go where I'm appreciated. And that's what we say, our little joke, right? I want to be appreciated. If I'm in your life, I want you to be able to tell your friends, this is what Sean does. This is what my man does. Because if you ain't riding for me, well, Fatima's starting to go a little toxic. So Fatima, 5 episodes ago, that's what I'm looking for, So that's
I hear that. So I'll be fair to the ladies. I'm a stickler for words. So in some shape or form, the word need can be triggering, right? Because nobody needs anybody, right? Like in that sense, in terms of a companionship relationship, you can still do life without it. But I think what the video exposed was a key element in this. The reason why the word need then became a trigger for women, supposedly what we're hearing is that, like you guys have eloquently exposed, is that there is pain behind that statement, and it's used as a baton to bash people over the head. It's very much like the word submit. It's become a problematic word because people have abused that space, and this is actually the reason why you need men, because good men are able to turn around that particular those particular contexts of words or situations or events. They're supposed to turn these things around in an appropriate manner to show you that this is how it should be done, right? Because the reason why there's pushback on submission as a word, or there is a pushback on even now need, is because some men have abused that particular context of the word. They've abused it, right? So this is why you actually need men to actually now begin to reestablish it in its proper light. So I can understand why there's an argument or a pushback, should I say, rather, from the ladies in terms of the word need. So let me be nice. Let's say rather than need, we can say want. If that's what you want, we can put it as that, so that you're not getting triggered in this conversation, so that we can actually get somewhere with this conversation, right? Because for men, I think for us men specifically, we like the word need. All right. And actually, there was an article that I read which was talking about this aspect where, as men, we like the word need. We like to be needed. So it's important for us, right? We also want women. We speak about it all the time. We want women. We need them. We understand that in our life, we need these people. I think what's been a pushback for the ladies is that they're struggling to be able to get past some of the past hurts that are hampering them at this moment. And I think that's why that word becomes such a trigger for them, right? I think let's be honest, if we're to put it as a plain piece of paper, women, you need men, and men need women, right? Without the two, nobody, our human race ceases to exist. If we don't have a need for each other, we go kaboot and we're done, so there's a need in that aspect. I think what is also in order in this situation is that I think also with this situation, what I want to be very careful how I'm going to word this. It's easy to formulate rhetorics such as "I don't need a man," because it becomes a banner for those who are also hurt to be able to notice. So you hurt too, sis. I see it. Thank you. Someone else who sees a situation as well. Someone else who's also hurt, but like the same way I have, same way someone else also has been broken by this as well. So I think that also, can also be an aspect as well. It can become a banner for those who have been hurt to kind of gather around and come together. And I think that's why sometimes for men too, we push back on that "I don't need a man" rhetoric, because we can see that on the other side, I'm gonna be very honest with you, most people who are in the camp of "I don't need a man" are actually hurt people, because we need each other. I actually can't. If I was to have choice and control and say it, I want to have a wife. I want to have children. I cannot physically do that without you. And I'm not just going to do that with any woman. if I'm a good man, I'm not just going to choose anyone to do it. I'm going to choose somebody who I can procreate with, that I'm going to create legacy with and life with, and I can do partnership and teamwork with, as you guys have been saying, and companionship with. So I do need you. I do need you, right? And I think we need to get to that space where we can trust one another, that when we say need, it doesn't come with the extra baggage that it comes with, right? So, but I understand where the ladies are also coming from in that aspect. But yeah, I would say the hurt and the pain is real on the other side. So that's why the need word becomes a problem. Andre, go for it. Sorry, you open your mic and I kind of, whatever of you, go for it, Cap.
No, I was just saying there's I believe that I don't like to shy away from like things that are like semantics. Like I do believe in like speaking with intention, and men need women, women need men. I mean, I stand on that. Those are that's my principles. If I definitely don't want to trigger any women, because I believe that women are definitely to be upheld and they're to be nurtured. As men, we have to be their protectors. But I do want to normalize, normalize, strong, protective men, so women can get used to men that are not, trying to manipulate them mentally, being narcissistic. Like I want women I do want them to not be triggered, but I also want them to get used to real men saying and doing these things, because that way they can at least have a good example of these things, that it's not always represented as the hurt or whatever happened in the past. But and as far as like needing things, there's a lot of things that you don't need to do. But if you don't do them, it's gonna, like, you don't need to take a shower. You don't need to. You're not gonna die if you don't take a shower, but you're gonna smell terrible if you don't take a shower. Like, you don't need to be in a relationship. You don't need to get married. You don't need all those things, but those are natural things that we were meant to do. Can you survive without having a companion? Can you survive without being in a relationship? Can you live and be old by yourself? Yes, you can. You can. You definitely can do that. But is that how we were naturally meant to be? I don't think so. And my thing is, every day I see somebody, whether it's on social media, the street, or whatever, I see somebody and I'm like, man, if that person got somebody, I know there's going to be just somebody for everybody. Every day, like there's 2.12 billion single people in this world. I just Googled it. There is somebody for everybody. Yes, it can. The dating world can be scary. It is very scary because you got to put yourself out there. It is scary, but on this planet, there is somebody for you. The only way there's nobody for you is if you give up and you do not try. That's all I gotta say about that.
That's hilarious, man. I mean, there is definitely someone for you. I would say, from a Christian perspective, not everyone's getting married, and I think that also is a reality, both men and women. So you're right, there is someone for you, but more than likely, not everyone's getting married, and it is unfortunate. You know what I mean? Yeah, because for us from a Christian perspective, the most important thing is that you find Jesus and you worship Jesus. Then after that, we want to get married, okay? Because we want to have kids, okay? We want to enjoy pleasures of our wife. So, so you're absolutely right. Yes, there are many, people do want to get into situations. I think what is maybe I can throw this monkey wrench in. It'll be a short one. Monkey wrench into the conversation is there's an aspect of also not adding shame if somebody says they don't want to get married, because there are a few people who, I don't think there's everyone, and I think everyone should check themselves. You know what I mean? And that's both men and women. Majority of us want to get married. Majority of us, and I want to say marriage, want to have a partner, life partner, whatever it's marriage or not, want to have that aspect, want to continue legacy. Majority of us do. There are a few minorities who don't want to. They have to be separated from the very people that are talking about, I don't need a man, but they really do want that. You know what I mean? Then they're in a minority by there's a small amount of those people, right? So I think that's a big thing. What I would say is that there's an aspect of what we call male-centeredness. So this is what also becomes very difficult in conversations, right? Because everything, and I'm just giving this aspect of side things as a counter argument for us as men, so we can counter it again. But the other aspect could be that, you know what, there's a aspect of male centeredness on marriage, not necessarily marriage itself, but in terms of how, if someone says they want to get married, how shame is then applied and guilt is applied to that person, right? So like if a woman says she's not going to get married, sometimes there can be shame applied. Well, what do you mean you're not going to get married? You're going to die alone. And immediately their response is, you don't die alone, rather than actually saying, okay, if you don't want to get married, is that really your sentiment, or is there something behind that? If our immediate, and I'm not saying us, by the way, on this panel, I'm talking about it's a general conversation. If the immediate response to someone who says they don't want to be married or have children or create a family, the immediate response is, well, you're going to die alone. You make that about male centeredness, because what you're saying is essentially your happiness will be centered around you being with a man, and that's not what we don't want to promote that either. I'm not saying you guys have said it, by the way, again, right? So it's about also understanding the two sides of the coin. And I know this is very hard because sometimes as men we don't talk about this. There's a lot of male centeredness that we have in conversations, a lot. And what male centeredness means is that you're centered on the focus of the situation, so you don't realize it's focused around you. Do you know what I'm saying? From my do you know what I'm saying? Like from my perspective. So like for instance, oh no, I don't want to go too deep. That's gonna go too deep. It's gonna go left if I go there. Let me know. But because I knew I was gonna go left if I go there. We can talk about it for another time. But so what I'm saying is if we are empathic and we are compassionate in the way that we approach the situation, my next answer for when you say you don't want to get married, or you don't want a man, or you say I don't need a man, is to say, well, who hurt you? Like sometimes some women do to us, I'm just saying, some women do this to us. That's not my next response. My next response is, are you sure? Is there no underlying issue as to why you don't want to get married? I'm asking questions to find out, make sure that there isn't another reason as to why you're saying what you're saying. This comes underneath the emotional intelligence, being compassionate, understanding where the person's coming from, because you and I don't have the same concerns and I tell this to men a lot of times. When we walk down the street, you don't think about who walks behind you. I mean, unless you're in the hood, then you might think about it. You know what I mean? But in a normal day and age, you don't think about these things. We don't think about it because, again, we have a privilege. That's why that's part of that male centeredness I'm talking about. Everything revolves around us in some aspect. So sometimes what can happen is women can feel like, even when we're talking about the subject, they may feel like, wow, like you're saying need. Remember, it's coming from the pain though. You're saying need. You're focusing men on the situation. So I can't be, an immediate thought of their head goes into, I can't be happy if I don't have a man, because everything becomes male centered. Do you see? So our role and call as men that are good men, okay, is to ask that extra question to find out, is there something behind why you're saying what you're saying, which can be very difficult. And I know that it might be difficult to do that. But the same thing we're applying for us, we're applying for the ladies too. I don't want to be hearing, if I say something, who hurt you? I don't want to hear that. Like we saw in Ready to Love, we heard that with Morgan saying that to Blake. I don't want to hear that either. So both parties here have to be able to come to that table and ask the extra question, rather than just it's automatically slamming the other person with a rhetoric or a label when they hear something they don't really like. If a woman says, I don't want to get married, who hurt you? If a man says to me, I don't want to get married because you're going to take 50%, who hurt you? It's like, we don't want to hear those rhetorics. Ask the extra question to show the compassion, to see what's behind that statement. If there is anything behind that statement, do you know what I mean? So yes, I know some of you guys may disagree or agree. It's good. It's not always that we agree as men. So anybody can chime in at this moment, say your piece. Let's have that dialogue. You know what I mean? Go for it.
Yeah, I would just add that most of the times when you hear that response, you're going to die alone, it's not from the woman that says she doesn't want, that she wants to be single. It's from the woman that is not open to some of the sacrifices that come along with being in a relationship. And in instances, from the male perspective, again, it's from our perspective, that there's some, sometimes there's certain levels of delusion or certain levels of, oh, I want this, this, and this. And before I get a man, or before I allow a man or to submit to a man, these are all the things that have to happen. Right. And, sometimes that list is not always a realistic one. So that's when the response, and I'm not saying it's a right response, but that's when the response is, well, you're going to die alone, or you're going to be out there waiting a long time for that right guy with all this whole long list, right? Now, what I will say is I appreciate a woman saying to me she doesn't want to be a wife, because I can move on. So please be honest with me. There's no shame. And I don't have any, any ill will or ill regard or need to shame that woman because she's made a choice to be single. And that's fine. And the same for a guy, right? That says, hey, listen, I don't, but just the same way we get on some guys that kind of like say, oh, don't ever get married. All women are just going to take advantage of you. The marriage system is, it's tilted in the favor of women. Like, you can do what you want to do, but you don't need to taint everybody else in the process. So I think that's where I get a little frustrated, is if you have chosen singledom based on circumstances and life choices and things that have come your way, I'm good with that. But don't devalue men. Don't say we have no value. Don't say that you don't need us, or, whatever. Yeah, you specifically may not need us, and that's fine. And I'm good with that. But I don't think we need to change words either. Like, if you want to be married, you need the other person. If I want to be married, I need my wife, and I hope she needs me. If you don't want to be married, you can need, not need, want, not want, whomever you want. But if I'm married to you, I want you to need me, because I need you. And I get there's patriarchy and misogyny that exists in the world, but like, at the end of the day, we need each other. It's very blanket. And sometimes when we get so wrapped up in nuances, we're going to be tussling around these nuances. And I just feel like if we could just be honest, yes, does a person that you're with need to be a good, healthy space for you to be vulnerable? 100%. Absolutely. You shouldn't just be needing any old man to come in and then take advantage of you. I get that. And I thought that went without saying, but if we need to say it emphatically, yes, it needs to be a good man, the right man, a man that sees your value, a man that cares for you, a man that puts his needs before yours. Yes, all those things are very important before you are vulnerable in that capacity.
Yeah, I just want to real quickly go into the. I definitely am not trying to. I don't believe in shaming anybody for their life choices if they don't want to be married, or even I wasn't even necessarily talking about marriage. Just even having a companionship in your older years. The term "die alone" does sound crazy. It's very aggressive. I get you, but it is the reality of, let's just call it then, becoming elderly by yourself. You know what I mean? If you have no children and you have no partner, it's the natural progression of life. Like, your parents are gonna die out, your siblings are gonna die out. Eventually, you are going to be an elderly person or in of age by yourself. And not saying that you can't be happy like that. I'm sure that people can be happy like that, but I think before people make that choice, I don't think they've ever talked to a 70-year-old woman who doesn't have a partner, or her partner may have passed, so maybe they don't understand, like, this term die alone. It's meant to sound as disgusting as it feels, as lonely as hard. It's not a nice thing. Now, you don't have to get married, you don't have to have companionship, but you are going to get old. We all get old. We all die. It is inevitable. Like and if you get older without a partner, that's like I said, you do not need one, but things do become more difficult later in age when you don't have a partner or children. That's the reality of it.
Kojo, I can, if I may, I think just so we are able to recenter the conversation around men being needed in today's society and having the idea of dying alone and needing a man and all those things. I think that it's very important to reaffirm that there are men that are essentially understand that it takes work or intention to love a woman the right way. And I think that we also know that there are women out there that are looking to love a man the right way. And I think that what we just are trying to share here is the fact that in the conversation of having the word "I don't need a man," essentially us men trying to prove our worth to women, we are essentially trying to go to the root of the actual conversation, which is, I don't need no man, or do you need men today? And I think that was a topic for today. So it was not necessarily to single out people or to have the conversation about dying alone. And even the whole conversation about dying alone, I think it just kind of really subscribed to the idea of people that do not want to be open to change. Essentially, when you are stepping in a dating pool, you have to understand what other people are looking for, the people that you are attracted to and want to be in a relationship with. Now, if you're not willing to change or evolve or make some adjustment with the product that you bring to the dating pool, obviously you're not going to be able to sell if the people who are buying, which is men or women, are not necessarily buying what you're selling. So I think that is the whole background of that term "die alone." Although I do agree that it is kind of like extreme with going all the way there, but I think it is just making sure that we are all open to that idea. Now, if you are not looking for marriage, you are not looking for having legacy built through partnership, that is a different story. We can't really force that to anybody. But I do want to say that anybody who's on this platform right now is looking for the information because, deep down inside of them, they are wanting to build, or they already have built this. Otherwise, they would not necessarily be looking for this information right now. So I think that we all want each other, since we don't want us to use the word need tonight, not to trigger anybody in the comments. We all want each other, right? I wanted women, and I think that is just about going about it the right way. This is where I'm going to land my plane, Sean.
Him saying they're going to land the plane. Okay, so there's some. Go for it, Sean. Yeah, you want to go for it, Sean?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same way that y'all feel like, and by y'all, I mean some of the ladies, right? You feel like, oh, this whole thing of, you feel triggered, or you feel like there's a shame tactic around us saying that you need us, or that, you're bound to single them if you don't subscribe to what a man is saying. And I really don't think that's the messaging here tonight, but I get it that that's what folks may be hearing. But I just think some interesting comments are, are we married? Is anybody married? Some of us are, some of us aren't anymore. Like, it doesn't matter. We are men, right? So we're men talking about why we think we shouldn't need to be married to qualify our opinions, nor should a woman need to be qualified by anything else to talk about your experience as a woman and what you feel your value is. So whether we're married or we're not married, whether we're single or not single, it doesn't matter. The matter is we're all men, and we're all here talking about our perspectives and sharing, our thoughts, and also listening to those of the ladies, right? So I think, like, let's just be fair to each other in that if we're going to say as women, you want us to be respectful and acknowledging of your experience, don't disqualify ours because of, and look for us to come from a certain perspective. You know what I mean? Like, so I just wanted to shout that out.
So I think this opens up the conversation at an interesting place, right? So again, I'm being my duplicitous self in a sense today a little bit, right? So I think the ladies have made some point here in terms of, well, they will say that, okay, about necessarily, quote unquote, we're still with the dial alone situation. They would say, quote unquote, well, they have community. So community would be their the people around them that would, quote unquote, support them and be around them in that time that you were talking about dying alone. So is it fair then to say, as an argument, that you go and die alone? Is that fair to say when they have community around them and they have people that will, be there for them? I mean, apparently, also this is true. I have seen the stats. Women do outlive men usually. So that's they're definitely going to be around each other. So is that fair to say that they're going to die alone when they have community in this instance? Is there a better argument we should be making?
That's going to be dependent on what you personally value, even in a community. When we're talking about down alone or being alone, is it okay to be alone, not being shamed for it? All this really comes back to the individual personal morals and what they believe in. I could say, yeah, am I afraid of dying alone? Honestly, no, never have been. But I can still clearly say, yeah, I need a woman in my life, and actively looking for that. But someone else is going to have a different answer on that. Some people are out here with a distinct fear of dying alone. And so they find themselves in certain situations that they probably shouldn't be in, as far as relationships are concerned. They might put themselves in a relationship that they know is toxic, that they know is harming them in some way. But yet, the only reason why they're really there when you look at it is because they have a fear of being by themselves. They need to deal with that first more than anything. But yeah, it depends on the person and what you personally value. It's really what it boils down to.
Interesting. Yep. Go for it, Sean.
Yeah, I was gonna say it just brings to mind that poem that's often quoted, right? It's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. And I think that's what we're saying. Of course, at the end of the day, people don't die in tandem typically, unless it's a horrific accident or it just happens that way. But most often people die at separate times. So I don't think it's like, okay, you get married, you're going to die at the same time your spouse dies. No, you guys are going to die at different times. The point is that you don't want to, the ultimate goal is to have had that experience of love, to have had that experience of a relationship that produces a family, right? Now, if you don't get it, does it mean your life meant nothing? No, there's plenty of people who were single and never married and contributed greatly to society. So it's not that you won't be able to have an impact and you can't exist in a healthfully way. However, we still can't discount the fact that as humans, there's a synergy and a necessity for us to be together, and that men and women were designed to be together, right? So ultimately, you want to have that experience. You want to have that, God willing, on my deathbed, I want to be able to think about all the great things that I did with my wife, right? And I won't be dying alone, because even if she goes before me or vice versa, we would have had the collection of our lives together, which was a value, right? So I think that's the heart of what, at least I'm trying to say, is we would rather not leave this earth without those experiences, right? And even if it means it ends in 10, 15, whatever the year amount is, I would have rather had it than not.
I'll definitely hear that. Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I definitely hear that. I think I definitely hear that. I think what you explained there is what needs to be added to the conversation when we say you don't want to die alone. I think that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, there does need to be a bit more fluff added to that particular statement, because it's a shock statement. You're gonna die alone. You are gonna die alone. Whether you're mad or not, you're gonna die alone. No, I'm being facetious. But no, in terms of when I say die alone, in the sense of we should add a bit more to it, right? Because in this instance, what we really are saying is this: you don't want to die without legacy. The reality of what you're saying, because you can have a family and none of them will like you, and you die alone. Do you understand? If you're not a fit parent or you're not a fit lover, you're gonna have family and still die alone, because you personally have not loved your family the way they need to be loved, and therefore you've reaped what you sowed. So what we need to add to the conversation, so it doesn't become this baton again. And I'm picking on this because I think sometimes as men, when we speaking to us as men, I get you. I'm with you. Yeah, you gonna die alone. Okay, like the way you cheat on this girl, you gonna die alone, nigga. Okay, she ain't gonna see you no more. She gonna leave your ass. She gonna divorce you. We are very to the point, right? And I'm saying as leaders, we have to also be very cautious about the way that sometimes we drill home a point. And it's unfortunate that there are other bad men. This is exactly why we say the men have protect. It's unfortunate that other bad men out there have used this rhetoric of you go and die alone as a baton over the head. Because now when you use it, it becomes a baton rather than becoming about the reality of what the situation is, which is when we're talking about the situation, what we really mean is, if, like Sean said, if you love and let's say you get a family, whatever, there's a real conversation we need to all have, actually, which is that you could be in a hospice, you might not have enough money there. You could be in a home, you might not have enough money there. They might take your home. You might even be homeless. You ain't even gonna die alone. You're gonna die on the streets. Like, it can get real. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a real conversation we have to have about that aspect as well, which is including the conversation. But what we don't want is the same battering ram that some of our bad predecessors or men that are in the same bracket as us have used, that then when you use it, it becomes polarizing to the conversation. Because I get what you're saying. Listen, nobody wants to die without a mate. Nobody wants to die without of loving someone, or at least have an opportunity to love someone or being with somebody. It's a beautiful thing, you know what I mean, to have loved someone and been in a relationship or being married and had your life partner, your companion that you roll with, you know what I'm saying? And you look at, hopefully by the grace of God, y'all can look at each other at, when you're old and be like, we've lived, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would say that most of us would want that particular reality. Because what happens is when we start using you're gonna die alone, also women start coming back with really illogical points. I love you, women, but you come back with illogical points because now they've got emotional about the situation, so it becomes logical. Well, then are you gonna? If you die before your partner, are you gonna die alone? It's like, no, that's not what you meant. See, and then it misses the point, because we're not talking about that. And that's what I'm saying about we have to lead them in this conversation so it gets to the point we get them to understand where we're coming from. We don't really literally mean like, yo, what we're trying to say to you is, without you thinking about family, without you thinking about legacy, without you thinking about, even having kids, being married, loving someone, there's a real reality, which is that when you get older, there's no one there who cares about you. Yes, you may have a community, right? But they will have their own family. And that means they'll have their own worries and their own responsibilities. They may be thinking about, whilst you may be wanting someone to come and support you, they may have other people around them that they got to think about. You may not be their first priority. You know what I mean? So that's what I was saying about that added nuance of that extra conversation. But there is some true realities. I ain't trying to die alone. I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay. And on my final point is, I'll let you jump in. I was listening to Will Smith, and he was talking about the last chapter of his book talks about his father. Sorry, last two chapters of the book talks about his father, Daddy-O. And he talks about how his father obviously is sick and is on his deathbed now, right? And he goes to have a conversation with his father, right? And his father's like, listen, you know, Will Smith tells him that you did a good job. You know what? You did a good job, Dad. You know what I'm saying? There's some things in his head, he knows there's something that he effed up on, but you know what? He did his job. You know what I'm saying? And he's saying to him, listen, I get it. I appreciate you, da-da-da-da-da. But the one thing that he kind of highlighted was, as he's about to pass, he's not by himself. His son is there. His daughter is there. His other son is there. And that's what we need to be. Women need stories. I'll be honest with you. They do. So when you tell it without the story, it becomes a battering ram. So the story that Will Smith shared there made sense, because what he's trying to let you know is his dad didn't pass and die alone. He died with family. He died with the knowledge of having knowledge of people love you and people appreciate you. People are around you, and not just people who are your friends, because you can't compare your blood that's come out of you to actual friends. I love that. I appreciate that. I think community is great, guys, as well. And I think it's a good substitute, but that's exactly what it is. It's a good substitute. But having somebody out of your loins, I ain't had one yet, but I'm going to tell you straight, from what I heard, it's a different type of thing. So, you know, maybe we can add that to the conversation to make them understand. Do you know what I mean? Go for it, Johan.
Yeah, I know we going to the end here, but I just wanted to say again, the reason why women need men or want men, just going back to your original question, is because at the end of the day, when we look at the family structure, the legacy, anybody that has an opportunity to really look into what a name of a family can do through generation and impact people in a good way. I've lived in community where the work of a man and a woman has changed people's life tremendously. And what I'm trying to say is, when we trying to live our life, not just for us, but for the next generation around us, whether you have a brother, a sister, or cousin that have kids, whether or not you do, you know, you essentially understanding the importance of tomorrow. And when you're trying to build your tomorrow, whether it's alone or with someone, you would essentially understand the importance of having a partner. Now, it's up to us to choose the right partner and understand those things, because all I'm just saying is, when women essentially trust a man who is reliable, who knows that their world revolves around this woman loving them the right way, they would essentially see the benefits of having a man in their life. And they would not necessarily argue over the semantic whether a need and want. And again, I'm glad that we had people sharing their honest opinion about that tonight.
Love it.
I land my plane.
You gotta, when you open a mic, you have to start saying plane taking off. That's what you're gonna start saying, yeah? Because as you landed so many planes, you're gonna start saying plane taking off, because you can't just be saying landing the plane. I love it, man. Any last points before we wrap up? Because I love the conversation where it's gone to, and you guys have added some good points. Any last points? Go for it, Andre.
Just wanted to say, we need women.
And I concur. I think we all agree. We need women, and we'll get the women on side. They will soon say they need men too. Okay, all right. But yeah, Sean, do what you do best, bro. Give us that benediction.
Well, you know, as always, I think we ended better than we started, and in life, it's always important where you finished, right? It's how you finished, where you finished. And I think we ended in a place that we definitely understand that we need women, and that there's also value in men, and that together we can do great things, right? But it doesn't go without saying that women are invaluable. You are the usherers of life. The life comes through you. And as you also eloquently pointed out to us, in many instances, you are the caretakers, the one that lead folks on to the next next stage of life, right? So we appreciate you. We need you. We see your value, right? We can't do it without you. We just want a little bit of that, right? You know, not all. We know that women are very much valuable, right? But we just want a piece of that, right? So you need us for what we bring to the table. And we're not afraid to say what we bring to the table. We bring protection. A good man brings protection. A good man provides for his family. A good man brings stability to his family. A good man is emotionally intelligent. A good man is loving and compassionate. A good man is a father. A good man is a husband. A good man is a man who plants his seeds on healthy, fertile soil, right? A good man invests and knows that it is through God, right? That our wisdom comes, our direction comes. So those are the types of men that we are talking about. Those are the types of men that we feel are of value to you women and that can make your lives all the more better so that we don't die alone, because we don't want to die alone. Back to you, Coach.
Appreciate that, Sean. As always, the benedictions is strong. You've never failed me yet, sir. Listen, to my panelists, thank you so much, Joanne, Sean, Trey, Andre, lovely as well. Andre, it's good seeing you, bro. I hope we get to have you
Thursday coming up.
Thursday. Okay, my guy, I'm there for you Thursday, bro. So Sundays and Thursdays, you're gonna see us together. But listen, audience, I want to thank the ladies first and foremost. I think they've been super uber respectful. They've pushed back in the right way. This is the kind of conversations we needed to have. So shout out you ladies as well in the chat who pushed back and said they didn't agree with certain things, but did it in a respectful manner. This is how we build a community, right? We offer each other a bit of grace. We push back intellectually, we respect each other, and then we move it forward that way. And actually, we had record numbers for the men's panel. Actually, I think almost 200. So for the men's panel, that's pretty good. Usually we have about 100, so we almost doubled today for men's panel. Maybe I need to start doing more clickbait titles. Who knows? Anyway, but you know, I mean, technically it wasn't a clickbait. We actually asked the question, but no, it was a good conversation, and I really appreciate you guys. And again, panelists, thank you so much for being on point, giving different points of view, agreeing, disagreeing, but being best of all, being men of valor and honor. You know what I'm saying? And some grace as well. So, ladies, we're going to see you again on Tuesday night for the open panel. We're going to have this conversation. You know, we're going to have the ladies being involved now with the men and talking about this title. You know, why women don't need men, or if they do need men. You know what I'm saying? We want to get you guys' point of view. So Tuesday, if you know you got a point of view, we want to see you on Tuesday night, ladies. That's your opportunity to come and say what you got to say. I would greatly appreciate if you come, though, come up. Okay, it just makes it easier for the audience when they're watching to kind of be able to read the conversation a bit better, because some things also are non-verbal cues. So it just makes it easier when people are watching you as well, you know. And who knows, whilst your face is on the thing, who knows what man is watching? You know what I mean? Some of you add me on Instagram, and I can't believe how fine you are. You're wasting your opportunities by not coming and putting your cam on. You understand? Some of you add me on Instagram, and you're hella fine, and you don't want to come up and cam up when you're on the actual platform. I need you to come on the platform and add yourself, because someone may be looking at you the same way I'm looking at you. Okay, now I can't date my subscribers, but you know. Anyway, but before we go somewhere, I shouldn't go left. By the way, listen, I really do appreciate you know, ladies as well. And as Dahlia's put there, yeah, pushback is done in love. So we're gonna see you soon. Robin said filters. Robin. Behave yourself, okay? Behave yourself. All right, we're gonna see you guys on Tuesday night, and see you on Thursday night for Man at First Sight, and then also be on Andre a little bit later after that as well. So
the adult table, baby.
The adult table, sir. The adult table. We're coming to that adult table. We're gonna rush the adult table. All right, listen. You know, I can't leave you without my favorite clips, guys. You know, I can't leave you without my favorite clips, because I came here for something and I'm leaving here with something. You know what? And I think this fits perfectly, because you know what? As men, we need women, and we ain't leaving here without something. Okay?
I'm leaving here with something. You know what I mean? I'm from around the way. I'm leaving with something.